were defeated because we have been trying to strive for a purpose for a very long time. We are now millennials. We're talking about Gen Z's, Gen Alpha's future. And what Gen Z are doing, trust you me, is gaining so much traction. And that is what is giving me a renewed hope on life, that life will not just be about a few people, but about Kenya. We also want to be part of the struggle. We are very much part of the struggle, include us, and we are together. That's my opening statement.
Asante sana. June, we are together. I like that as an opening statement. Bwana TG, welcome to the space. How goes it? Veteran journalist, much of an introduction, but go ahead anyway.
Actually, veteran, I'm now 54 years old. Therefore, I'll be 55 in September. So I qualify to be veteran. And of course, I began my career when I was in my 20s. I was then publisher and actually I was chief executive of Finance Magazine with the Jehoga Tabaki in 1992. And thereafter, I started my own publication, The Post on Sunday, which was publishing from 1997. Obviously, I did quite a lot of radio and broadcast. I began Crossfire on Kiss 100 with the late Mutula Kilonzo and Mukisa Kitui. That was a very popular program on Kiss 100 in the early 90s. Went on to do quite a bit more on television with NTV, with Nation, with KTN. And eventually I also did my own program, Point Blank on KTN News. That was running also some years later. So basically I've been in the media industry for well over 25 years.
Thank you, Tony.
Well over 25 years. Go ahead, Ms. Annie.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. You know what TG forgot to tell us, he has a bragging right called the only man who was sentenced by 7-judge bench to the committee for absolutely some non-existent charges. Tony, if you don't mind, we'll be coming to that in a moment. But for now, let's open the conversation. And for those who are joining in, we're just getting started with the Kenya we want. Again, we have renamed the specific hashtag to Gen Zote because we are all part of the conversation. Quite a very busy week, I must say. We have had some declarations from the courts annulling the Act of 2023, which is the FIRE Act. Some of us are now asking, are we going to get our money back? But before we talk about money, the president is busy around the country once again in a campaign mood, should I say, stopping every other person from entering that forfeited, should I say, God forbidden stage of talk to the people. In Mombasa, promising goodies, Tarakaniti, I believe so, was it Nyandarua, one of those? He was in the area. And I can tell this man is not leaving anything. He is there to stay, or possibly he is planning to stay. We start off with Dr. Mumbi, who has been a very serious critic of the president. Dr. Mumbi, welcome to the conversation. Looks like I was talking to myself. Dr. Mumbi, are you with us?
Dr. Mumbi, are you able to hear?
I'm on. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I got so excited I was speaking with the mic off. I wouldn't say I'm a critic of the president as in terms of him as a person, but in terms of I, as well as everyone on this platform today, every Kenyan, we are his employers. And if he is the CEO of this, we're told it's still a company, actually, this company we called Kenya, then we are allowed to offer our observations and if they want to be looked at as criticisms. But it's been overwhelming for me, especially coming from Mombasa, seeing the Mombasa rally. I know that really demoralized a lot of people, seeing all those people out. And despite we know how these politicians operate, it was so obvious that it was a paid event. There were different people who confirmed that a lot of the people were paid, even on the ground. Guys were telling us they were receiving 350. Mobilizers were receiving 5,000. Nabi, as I call him, and I call him that because he's prophesied everything that's happened now. But he actually even had the audacity to tell us in Kilifi that he was going to build the dual carriageway that is actually almost complete at this time. But he went back. So in Mombasa, I am a member of quite a few of these the people who organize the local protests, and no, there was no discussion of Nabi visiting Mombasa. In fact, we found out about it on Twitter. So it was not an organic event. And that is, it was extremely frustrating for the people on the ground who did a lot to mobilize people in Mombasa and across the coast. Um, and it was the issue once again of like, he's beating us at the optics, and he's understood how important the optics are. And one thing I keep saying on TikTok and on YouTube is that Nabi is not speaking to us. Nabi is speaking to the international community. He doesn't care about us. He sees us as weak. He sees us, he doesn't think we have the power to follow through. That is why he brought in the opposition, Akina Baba, because he felt that maybe those ones who now are the ones who had the goons who had the power to follow through based on his intelligence. But we have to understand that ultimately he's not addressing us. Ultimately, he's not on this campaign for us, even though it is our money. And I really want us to remember that this thing is extremely spiritual, as much as it is mental and it is physical, because those are the levels that were being attacked. And one of the things is, before he even landed in Mombasa, we had it on, there were rumors and allegations that there was some rituals that had been done when he pit stopped in Sugoi, and that money was washed with certain things and all that. The reason I'm sharing this is because we can't
wait, Dr. Mumbi. That is a very serious allegation. You don't have proof for that, do you?
I don't have proof. That's why I said there were rumors and allegations. So let me take that back. But there were rumors and allegations that certain things were done. Anyway, let's just say this kind of money is not clean.
So this Nabi, who is God sent, manages to come to Mombasa and is spreading his gospel. Yeah. And the organizers of the quote unquote demonstrations like yourself have no clue. Are you not trying to tell us you do not understand how the politics of politics work? Because how did you not find yourself knowing that Nabi was visiting?
You know what? Because it was not something that was unnatural or organic. It was not something that involved the citizens of Mombasa. That's how we didn't know. It was just by the way he's in town, the people have already been organized and they were there. Even the town hall, even that place where he went to do the IT and all that. But what I want to say is that this really affected the global mood, and it affected the I don't know what the motivation of the people. A lot of people felt all of a sudden that he had become popular. But in Mombasa, we all know it was a lie. There was even people who came afterwards saying they had not been paid and all these things. But we have to understand that we are not his audience. And I think when we understand that we are not his audience, which is actually why I was talking about Mombasa rally, then we'll understand that this is not about us. The hardest place we've hit Nabi is with his international reputation. And that is something he will not recover from. If you've seen the articles in Bloomberg, if you've seen the articles in Wall Street. And what he is trying to do is recover that unrecoverable reputation. So if we try and make it like a boxing match where we do something and then we wait for what Nabi will do, when Nabi is not even thinking we're on the playing field, then we'll really be losing our steam. Which is why I feel that the most important thing is to focus 100% on the Kenya we want and the things that are going wrong with the Constitution as our leader.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mumbi. Maybe I'll allow you to learn at that. Brief scoop, there are things being said here that Nabi caught Dr. Mumbi and her friends off guard, went ahead looking to be winning at home. At the same time, we are asking the Kenya we want. And she actually tells us he might have been hurt internationally. I want to remind you that this is the very man that survived the ICC, and he's been a very favorable candidate for the Western puppeteers. Brief scoop.
You know, he has. I was listening to Dr. Mombi, and and Dr. Mombi, you don't know Mizani, but he was being lighthearted there about you not being a Nabi yourself, to have, you know, to have prophesied his coming, because you know, it seems there's a lot of prophecy and nabiing around here, and Zakayoing and Judasing all over the place, and we'll get to the Judas in a moment. But there's so much intrigue. I honestly don't know who his audience is. I mean, I'll take your word for it, Dr. Mombi, because I actually don't have a theory on it myself. So I'll just have to go with your theory that his target audience is overseas, not here. And that makes sense when you really think about it. I guess when you stop to think about it. I've gone back and forth on this, so I'm not even going to try and clear my mind on how I think this is going for him. So, but yeah, and as for all the intrigues and him coming, you know, showing up in Mombasa, we did hear about of course, the rallies being people being funded to show up to the rallies. Actually, I think I told you guys last week that I saw people being paid to rally on motorbikes last week. I wasn't able to take video of it because it was a dangerous place. I couldn't have done it. Um, but honestly, yeah, I mean, his audience is not us, and what I like the most about what you said is how this affects us, which is we focus on the Kenya we want, and that's the discussion today. Redemptor, let's hear from you. The week's intrigues. Ulikuwa na unabii wewe that nabii alikuwa anatokea. Did you have any prophecy yourself?
Honestly, I think there's superpowers going on where someone lies to us and assumes that we cannot tell a lie from the truth. There must be some supernatural powers here where you keep telling. So the Kenya we don't want. The Kenya we don't want is where young people are turned on each other. You do not go to a very charged environment where people are speaking their voices and then you pay one group. The message I want to give to fellow Kenyans is the young people especially, you're suffering together. You're jobless together. Hata kupokonyana mamanzi, walikuwa wanaitwa hivyo. Mnashare nare, mnashare sijui nini, kiroro. Wasichana hata mshei because wazee wanawachukua. And then when it comes to speaking up, you decide to be pitted up against each other. So for me, the saddest thing, the Kenya we do not want is where brother is stand on brother because of 500 shillings ambazo Dr. Mombi anasema sijui zililala kwa choo kwanza ndio zilipane asubuhi. Yeah, we are superstitious people and we
Excuse
don't talk
me.
about it.
Who is this speaking, and what did you do with Redemptor, please? Can you bring back the Redemptor we know? Tafadhali.
I wear many hats, but the one that I'm carrying today is that of not just a storyteller, but a mother. So I want to speak also today and wear that hat of, it really hurts when you see people turning children on each other, because as a nation, we are children of the same mother. I hear the young people are beginning to catch up with our Africanism. They're saying our placenta is planted here. So hakuna mtu mgeni hapa. So when you start you uniting people together, let me tell you, Mizan, let me speak now with a low voice. The lowest moment I have seen is when our young people went to the streets chanting, "We are peaceful, we are peaceful." And what does the president do 1 week later? Is to go and tell people to chant, "We want peace, we want peace." And my question is, as we continue, where is the justice?
Indeed, where's the justice? And to your point, the young people, the spontaneous organic movement was already saying we are peaceful. So where are we asking for peace? Where are we looking for peace when we are already saying we are peaceful? Mizani, over to you, and then let's hear from Tony.
Definitely, I want to know why do we have to chant we are peaceful and then a few weeks later we want peace? addressing the very, very person to ask them to bring peace. Jean, who says, Jen, Zote sounds about right because we all feel the effects of these disenfranchised governments. Pardon me. We have Ichung'wa Naina, who tells us Ruto listens only to his economic power sources, that is tax, loans, domestic lenders, bilateral creditors, international market. Well, somebody here does not like the tone of this guy. I don't know who is the guy, but that chick, kindly come back. We love everyone and we'll want to have a very serious conversation on the Kenya we want. Kenyans, must we deliberately stop amplifying this regime, block them, unfriend them, ignore them, make them irrelevant, and demonstrate their illegitimacy by exposing the incompetence through the courts? Fund the legal teams fighting for our cause. That is Kenny. Tony TG, the man himself, jailed 7 judge bench because hakufanya kitu na akaenda committee. Are you an innocent man in this case, and what do you have to prosecute? As we look at the Kenya we want, what next, Tony?
By the way, committee prison, now you remind me, I was in Block A, cell number 131.
Did you write on the walls?
Yes, I found Kenneth Matiba's name there. I was here. So under his name, I wrote I was here, TG. That was August 1999. I was convicted on what they called criminal libel, having written about the courts facilitating Kamlesh Patni of Goldenberg International. And the judges said that I made an unscrupulous attack on them and their integrity. So they said that we sentenced you, Tony Gashoka, to contempt of court, to jail for 6 months. Now, coming to this subject of this day, I want to tell this country without any fear of contradiction that the hour of reckoning has come. When Raila Odinga met with William Ruto to form the concept of the government of national unity, the concept was actually made because of the unrest that was going on around the country. The mistake the two of them made was thinking that they can be a political solution to an economic problem. The genesis of the street demonstrations facing Kenya in the last month and a half have been because the cost of living and the economic weight on the majority of Kenyans, the middle class, and those that live below the poverty line has become unbearable. That of every 10 shillings that are paid that are raised in GDP, 7 go to the payment of debt, and only 3 are left for recurrent and developmental expenditure. And therefore, if you are treating a cancer patient, and I want to say this with a lot of respect to all who may be suffering from this disease, it's not one that I take casually, but you cannot attack or treat cancer casually. You must be able to go and do invasive surgery if required to remove what is cancerous, or you must kill the body to make sure that the cancer cells die in order to save the person. And the critical problem with Kenya is that we are in economic ICU. And so William Ruto, who was politically exposed, in fact, he was on his political deathbed, decided to do some political acrobatics by trying to manufacture a kind of political settlement that would buy him time with the public. The mistake that ODM and Raila Odinga made is that by agreeing to that, they have not addressed the economic problem. And therefore, Odinga had a major problem trying to market this thing first to Kenyans, but secondly to his political partners. So his biggest problem started with ODM. At ODM, it was split in the middle, those who want to go and those who don't want to go. Today, there was a meeting at the Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka Center in Karen, where Odinga went and met all the partners of the Azimio la Umoja coalition, with the exception of Martha Karua, who has left the coalition. When he started speaking to all of them, he started selling the idea of a national conversation as a way of bringing what he's calling the country to discuss how to be able to tackle issues and problems. And a lot of the people around the table disagreed with him. Wajakoya and Eugene Wamalwa walked away. Just as we were coming to air, Kalonzo Musyoka has sent out a statement saying that he is not supporting the conversation. And therefore, and I'm told Kanu and Gideon Moi also are not supporting the conversation. So you've got a situation where Odinga is being isolated even within Azimio la Umoja. Why am I bringing all these matters up? I'm bringing them because today is a historical day. The Court of Appeal has thrown away the finance bill of 2023, and it has declared it unconstitutional. So all the supporting legislation of Finance Bill 2023 and the Appropriations Bill are all null and void ab initio. And therefore, this country has to revert to the finance bill that was done by Uhuru Kenyatta in 2022. In other words, all the financial arrangements of 2024 and 2023 are void. And therefore, all the political acrobatics that Odinga and Ruto were planning have been negated. And as I conclude the first statements, I want to remind the country of the book, The Prince, that was written by Machiavelli, that said that, of all political skills, remember that you only succeed half by skill and half by fortune. And fortune comes from God. So the blood of the people that has been spilled on the streets of Nairobi and the country has come to haunt Zakayo. Now that the Court of Appeal has rejected the 2023 finance bill, they have jumped from the frying pan into the fire. That means there is no money to pay this new cabinet and its programs. In fact, the raising of taxation under 2023, once voided, reduces government expenditure by a major component. I want to land there for now.
I don't know where to begin, Tony, because that is so much information that you have given us. And I really wish we had a tax or expert or an economist to tell us. I don't even know if that's an economist to tell us where, because I'm an economist and I'm stumped. To tell us what happens now with regard to government spending, A, and B, what happens with regard to the budget, because what really does that mean? Tony, do you have an idea what that means in terms of budget legally?
Yes, you see the budget and the appropriations, you know there are two sides to any budget. There is the estimates of government, and then of course there is the bill to collect that money that is budgeted. Now the problem with throwing out the entire bill is affects collection of revenue.
Maybe Tony,
so for
if
example,
you can take a quick edit on that, it's the Finance Act and not really the bill.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, I'm just trying to answer broadly to him, because yes, the Finance Act is a major component, but there is also other things like the housing levy, for example, that has been thrown out. So I'm trying to explain. Yes, the majority of the government revenue raising endeavors have got to be readdressed, because, for example, what was the fuel situation in 2022? What was the VAT situation? What was the price of manufacturing taxation? So all the things that were in 2022 that were raised in 2023 become void. And you look at that increment, that increment was already unpopular. You then talk about the housing levy, which has now been removed. What impact does that have, including the contracts already entered by government to build houses? Bills of quantities or tenders that have not been paid, debts that have been accrued. So, in other words, you're looking at a financial meltdown, financial crisis where government has budgeted and allocated funds which it no longer can collect. And and of course the 2024 bill is void. So now the 2023 bill is void by the ruling of the Court of Appeal, and the constitutional implications of that means that the government cannot collect according to that act, and can only then use even the supplementary budget that was passed under 2023 the other day is null and void. So you're back to 2022. Whichever way they calculate it, they have jumped from the frying pan to the fire. I'm quite actually happy because Odinga and his team are very greedy and they went there to look for money. Let them now go and find the chaos that they have wanted. Let them go there and find that the bank has been broken by the blood of Jesus and it doesn't exist.
Tony, I'm happy you still believe in the blood of Jesus, but I just want to pull a little bit on that issue of the Finance Act 2023 being thrown out. And what the Court of Appeal declared was the Finance Act 2023 was unconstitutional, saying that the process leading to the enactment was fundamentally flawed. And maybe at a later stage, I'll have Wakili Ndegwa here trying to interpret the legalities around this and what it implies. But for now, Brief Scoop, maybe we can bounce back to you as we welcome more speakers who we want to hear from them as we have the Gen Zote conversation right here. The Kenya we want, what next?
Excuse me. I don't know if it's me or if your audio is a bit weird, Mizani. So check that, unless it's just me. But I was intrigued, Ndegwa. If you do have anything, we would like to hear from you. If you do have something on what that means, do you, by any chance?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I can only betrace what Tony has ably submitted on, and permit me to say hi to all the listeners. It throws us into a serious crisis simply because somebody somewhere failed to consider very fundamental details and constitutional issues while legislating. He came to legislate with the kifua instead of legislating in accordance to the law. I am still going through the detailed judgment by the Court of Appeal, but all what the Court of Appeal is saying is that the act does not conform to the Public Finance and Management Act. One of the principles that the Court of Appeal has raised is the question of the involvement of the people while enacting that particular bill. And the Court of Appeal is declaring that you cannot come to formulate policies, may they be of financial generation model or whatever you may want, without having the voice of the Kenyans in it. It tells you that the Court of Appeal is joining hands with Kenyans in fighting dictatorship and tyranny, that they are joining hands with us in fighting unreasonableness in governance. They are joining hands with us in trying to formulate the policies that are financial policies that are sound for this country. The implication of it is that as earlier submitted ably by Tony, is that we currently do not have a finance bill that we can resort to. Remember, with the denouncement of the 2024-2025 finance bill, Nabi was intending to resort to the 2023 Financial Act. It has now come to his dismay or surprise that even that particular act itself is unconstitutional. So, as ably put by Tony, the only then Finance Act that we can deal with perhaps is the 2022. But the question is a financial act not repealed by a subsequent enactment? Have we not had purportedly enacted the Financial Act 2023-2024? So again, we get ourselves into a serious legal quagmire, whether we can actually revert back to an act that was repealed by effluxion of time. Remember, financial acts ceases to have effect upon the enactment of a subsequent one. So Nabi is in great problem here, but he has led himself into it because of his arrogance and his incompetence. Again, I do not think that you'll have the leeway just to go and try and fish out the 2022-2023 Financial Act and try to dust it on the basis that it is ceased to have the effects of full of law. We need an interpretation again by the High Court, whether we can revert back to that.
Yeah, and let me pause you there because what I understand, what I hear you guys, learned friends, telling us is that there's never a lacuna in the well, I don't know if you say never, but there's no lacuna in the law, or hopefully there isn't, and therefore I would imagine that there's a provision for when that happens. But I'm guessing from what you're telling us, you don't know of one, correct?
Remember, sorry, as I learned, remember, this is the first time that these things are happening in this country. We have never had ourselves in this crisis, but the crisis is brought to us as a result of impunity. And I'm again saying that perhaps we need the wisdom of the High Court again to guide us on how do we proceed from here. Thank you. I learned there. I'll remain available for consultation.
All right, Tony, you have your hand up, so let's hear from you.
You know, I've just noticed that former cabinet secretary Eugene Wamalwa is on the space, and maybe he can clarify what that bill means and why he ran away from Azimio meeting. I can see he's on the space.
I'd be curious to hear from him. And keeping on the topic, I'll find him and pass him the mic. But is he still on the space? I don't see him anymore. But anyway, we'll find him and pass him the mic. Mizani, if you do see him, do pass him the mic. We would love to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, or exactly what the intrigues are. With regard to the Finance Act, as much as we all have a lot of we all had a we I think I was definitely glad that the Finance Bill 2024 was thrown out. I'm nervous now about this 2023 one being thrown out because as much as we don't want to fund corruption, obviously, I also don't want Kenya to go to the dogs. Of course, we are here talking about the Kenya we want. Mizani, let's hear from you. I'm glad you have your hand up because I'm actually stumped. I'm speechless for once.
You are not the only one who is speechless, and I hope you can hear me. Now I've transferred to my
Sounds
Ferrari
good.
in the name of
Yes.
phone.
Yes,
Anyway,
you sound good.
I love to listen from the audience that are joining us. And Wakili Ndegwa, stay standby because a number of issues rotating the issue of the legality and the constitutionalism will be popping up. Because one, there is an issue that surrounds who advises the president in matters law. To some extent, people were arguing that the president was either being misadvised or he does not listen, because a number of issues they have placed as or proposed as cabinet, many of them have come under scrutiny. So we are in a situation we are almost seeing a constitutional quote unquote crisis. I don't know how that will play out for the Kenya Kwanza administration, but definitely we want an administration that is transparent enough for Kenyans to see what their money is doing and how their money is being managed. But let's now allow a couple of speakers to join us and listen from them. That is from, let's start with you, 254. What do you say about the talk that is happening, the kind of Kenya you want?
Good evening, Eli, Karanja, Dr. Mumbi, Tony Gashoka, Redemptor. Thank you for the space and for the quite insightful start to the conversation. Based on what I just saw also the judgment from Okio Mtata's page, and I sit in a very strange place myself because I think I'd start by saying this. I agree first with Dr. Mumbi about Nabi and his crazy side shows that he keeps pulling every now and then. And all he's doing is just creating more side shows. And I think when we started, Dr. Mumbi said that the audience is for foreigners. And precariously today, there was a conversation about IMF again approving another $40 million in loan to Kenya, which again is very crazy. We don't understand why we have to keep talking about loans every now and then. Two, based on the judgment that has come out, my feeling is that Kenya, it's like we live in a soap opera. We are an active soap opera, simply because one, now you have the judiciary saying that this act is now unconstitutional. We are well past a year when it was implemented. And then you start having private citizens now asking, where's all this money? Do we need to now look at a legal recourse to get this money back? So again, like I've always said, even in previous conversations, the legal or the judicial system keeps putting us in very strange legal quagmires, because some of the decisions that come out leave us again very dumbfounded, if I can use that word, or shocked, because now we are wondering, and this is basically my opinion, why would it take this long to get such a ruling, number one? Then number two, if this ruling is supposed to be effective, then what kind of economic crisis are we facing? Because we are then steering towards a banana republic. And just on a lighter note, I think there was a very famous story about when so-called Trump took over, when he became the president in the US. And one of the first questions he asked Barack Obama is, where are the guys who run government? And Barack was like, you need to have a team who can run government. And to bring it more local, it seems Nabi never has a team. So he does not understand where professionalism sits in running a country. And I have always said, the day that politicians, who are now I call dealers, stop running this country like a household and start running it like a proper business where there are KPIs and there are things to look after, then we'll start seeing some change. So the Kenya we want, for me, is sitting in a space where there's a whole lot of audit that needs to be done, because I believe as much as we want to fix this country, we need to really clean this system, and unless we understand where the system has the holes and the loopholes and the rot and where the dealers exist, then we won't have a space where we can say we can adequately start fixing it. And when we do start fixing it, I think we should be guided by one very important document, which is our constitution. So before we start saying, oh, this is wrong, this is right, we just need to implement it first, 100%. Then once we implement it, where we have the parliament being separate from the executive and the judiciary being very categorical in giving legal advice or legal settlements very quickly, then I think the Kenya we want will start taking a different shape. And I think I'll land there for now. Hopefully, once we start the discussion, I'll be able to contribute more. Thank you.
I'm surprised 254 you were still looking for the discussion to start. We are on and we are continuing with the talk as we look at the Kenya we want. But thank you for those submissions. I will give TMP a quick opportunity to contribute, because we would like to go back to our main speakers and find out what they make of the issue of the team from Raila Amolo Odinga going to join the Kenya Kwanza administration and simply restore some quote-unquote order. Nobody saw the Tuesday Maandamanos. Does this in any way say, well, we lost some, we won some, the country's back to its feet? I don't know about that, but TMP, what's your take?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. So I don't know if I can be able to get 10 minutes to share a little bit of unpopular opinion. I've
10
been
minutes
to a couple
will
of
be too long. We'll give you 4
long,
minutes and a half.
4 minutes and a half. Okay, sure. Let me see if I can be able to summarize in that time. So, greetings, everyone. I hope you're okay. So, first, I would love to say that a conversation is two-way. You must be able to speak and let someone else listen and understand. At the same time, you should be able to let someone else speak and also understand them. Because one thing that has been popular right now, and the reason that is the main thing that is causing lack of unity in the whole movement right now, is the fact that if someone else has a different opinion or a different suggestion on the way forward, most of the times people end up cutting them off, or the famous kumsalimia. But the main agenda when all this started was the finance bill. But along the way, we also realized a lot of problems. We went chasing for a squirrel, but we ended up getting an antelope. So the thing is, right now, for us to be able to get on the same page, we need to be able to all be open-minded. Let everyone air out their opinion. So that is number one. Number two, I'm going to give a little bit of backstory about TMP. We've been coming to different spaces, but it's just as listeners, trying to listen and hear different opinions that people have. TMP was formed in 2022, and its main objective was literally mental health, because the cases of people committing suicide and murders is just crazy. It was going overboard, and after a lot of research and talking to a couple of people and trying to understand what pushes you to that end, most of it was financial issues. And all this, you see, 2022, there was COVID-19, and the world literally shut down. Like, people were locked down, and then we're coming out of it, and the economic situation is just messed up. Uh, People are still recovering. People have had issues because of the isolation of being alone, the fear of losing your life. That was something crazy. So we're still trying to recover away from that. So that is another thing that we need to be able to consider. And that is why the rise of suicide and mental health and the financial systems not working went on the rise. And so we need to be able to find solutions. Number three, I'm going to talk about how everyone has become complacent. Not that people are not hardworking. Everyone is very, very, very hardworking, but we've become complacent in what way? And the fact that we put so much trust in the government, we expect the government to solve our problems. Yet the government cannot solve all our problems. Population keeps growing. Climate change. We just suffered drought the other day. And then when we think drought is over, then flood are coming in. So not a problem. We can just leave to a few people to, solve for us. So that is I've lost count. I think that is number four. I'm trying to summarize everything so that I can say everything in 4 minutes. So all our problems are beyond anyone to solve. I saw the other day the Kenyan government passed back an alternative bill. Is it bill or budget that they're hoping for the IMF to come with it, and you see, as to agree to, so that it can be implemented now. Since I've just seen today that the Finance Bill 2023 has been declared unconstitutional, and this one for this year again has been rejected. So what is the way forward? And I think this is very high time for this current government to go back to the drawing board. The things that they told. I'm going to come out and be, honest. I am the founder of the TMP, and it was my first time that I was supposed to, go vote, but I didn't vote. But one thing I'm going to be honest about is the fact that I did trust the government to solve our problems. I did trust their manifesto. It was really nicely layered out that if everything is to be implemented, then things will be, a little bit better. But you find out this is the thing that was said, but the thing that is being done is totally different. We also have participated in a couple of events, with different stakeholders, and sorry, oh my god. And one of them was a policy research event that was held in Kilifi. And you see, policies are discussed and discussed and discussed, but they cannot be implemented. The policies that are being given priority are policies from people who don't even understand the problems. So for me, I would go for the opinion of a national dialogue would be possible. And because you're asking the Kenya we want, so what is next? And for now, if we keep doing this with the division and all this will just be stretched. I was just checking the other day the trending topic, and the Ruto must go topic is gone. And now we need to come to a topic. I don't know if I'm able to finish everything. I don't know.
Your time is up. Maybe we'll come later to the trending topics conversation. But and this is because we really want to move as quick as we can, not to leave out the most important aspects of the talk. However, we do welcome you to stay tuned as we try to have more conversation on the Kenya we want. TMP, thank you. A quick one, probably, if you don't mind. We are trying to correct the stories we put out there and how we propagate them. We do not say they are committing suicide. We rather report as death by suicide because it's an illness. Let's go to Briscope as you bring us new speakers.
Thank you, Mizani. Thank you, TMP, and good work on mental health, because it is so essential, and we don't, talk enough about it. We've been calling out to Eugene because we really want to hear about the intrigues. I'm passing you the mic, Eugene. Please take it. I would love to hear from you about what you what has transpired today with your coalition, what you think about all the intrigues that we are hearing about, and also how if this government is going to solve that issue of the finance bill. But in the meantime, while waiting for Eugene to pick up the mic, let's hear from other people on the panel. Tom, and then Obeds, in that order.
Well, thank you. I'll just respond quickly to the Kenya we want and what next. I'll just share my opinion, and possibly, if at all, there are people who will be able to build on it and maybe provide possible avenues of achieving Kenya we want, then I'll be glad. Well, the Kenya we want, for a fact, is a...
Is it just me, or is his mic not good?
I completely.
Am I audible?
No, unfortunately not, Tom. Let's move on to Obeds. Maybe try and move to somewhere different. While you figure that out, we'll go to Obeds and we'll give you a chance again.
Thank you, Brief. Thank you for the opportunity to make my contribution. I want to reiterate something that maybe some of us feel like we did lose the momentum about what's going on in the country. But we should be proud of one thing, that we have been able to make the political class to start to listen. And that is something that cannot be gainsaid. It's important that we appreciate that that has been done. Secondly, we have to sustain the momentum, and the only way to do that is to ensure that every citizen is actively involved in matters building the nation, matters policy, be informed and be ahead of the curve. For a long time, the fact that people have not been well informed, or they know but have I did say again, people have outsourced the responsibility of understanding what goes on in policy and what goes on in politics to politicians and other people. But now they're taking that into their own hands. Seeing the fact that Kenyans are actively demanding for accountability, it's important. The fact that you can see Kenyans asking members of parliament what they have been able to achieve for the period they've been in their seat is critical. And we cannot stop that. There has to be an uneasy come between us and the politicians. That tension is important. You know why? Because if they know what they're going to make a decision that affects us directly, or because we are their employers, they have to ensure that they go and think through it. Parliament has been our weakest link. And now, unfortunately, given what has gone on, we might lose a lot of things in that house. So it is important that the people decide, and actively so, as expected by the Constitution in Article 3, to defend it. Because every citizen is allowed to do that. Go to court, demand for accountability, and make the political class account. Not everyone is bad. They're not all rotten apples. But we must appreciate that a majority of them really are not good. We also need to reconsider a few things probably. How can we ensure NGCDF is removed and this money is probably put into ensuring in education? Remove money off the hands of politicians totally. Let them do their job of representation and the three important aspects of it. That would help us, because the biggest mistake we made them demigods by virtue of the fact that they control a lot of resources. They almost go around. That's why they put even their photos in every other space whenever they do something. We don't need that. We need an accountable leadership. And I think going forward, let us consistently make it uncomfortable for them to sit anywhere if they're not doing anything for Mwananchi, because that's their business, to ensure that you represent people as they want. They are our representatives, and we must make it uncomfortable for them. I don't have much to say because I'm sure a lot of people have said stuff. which is important, but let's keep pushing. And people need to organize. People must be prepared and structured in such a way that the reality, this is an economic, political, and social element situation, but it needs a political solution. Organize and be prepared. So that if we don't manage now, we have a time again to be able to demand, and that is 2027. That's what I would say for now, brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Obed. You were brief. You lived up to my name, which I can never live up to.
I'm good at keeping time brief. I'm sure you know that.
The political class, we need to hold them accountable, you said. Let's hear from Tom. And then after Tom, we'll hear from Eugene.
Well, thank you. I hope now I'm audible.
Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe not.
Whereby the rule is respected, a Kenya whereby court orders are adhered to, a Kenya whereby there is no theft of public fund. We are giving it a nice name, corruption. It is called theft. A Kenya whereby whatever we speak by word and by writing is implemented by action, whereby we have the political class, especially the members of parliament, whose role is to legislate, is to oversight, and to represent. I don't know where management of public funds comes in. I don't understand why the concept of CDF is related to the politicians at the National Assembly. I really would like a Kenya whereby we probably revisit and go back to a parliamentary system, if not the presidential system, so that there is no concept of the president capturing the legislative arm of the government. I'd like a Kenya whereby politicians, as they seek leadership positions, going to serve Kenyans, they do not necessarily have to use their money to convince voters to vote them, and then after they go there, they start looking of avenues to steal and get back their money. I would like a Kenya whereby the government, after having aspirants pass the test of leadership and integrity, Chapter 6 of the Constitution, especially Article 73. These people are funded by the government to go for their campaigns, and also they are funded by the electorates, so that after we've funded you to go and represent us, we give you our proposals on what we really would like you to legislate over. If you fail to deliver, we call you off, just the way we did by going to the by street protest and managing to go to the parliament, and the bill that they passed was dropped. So such system will really make a lot more sense. I'd like a Kenya whereby Kenyans are engaged through public participation, through town halls, to make sure that indeed their views are considered during legislation. They normally talk of public participation. Me being a very sensitive Kenyan, I've never met any avenue to present my participation. So just by that is the Kenya we want. I'd also suggest that for us to have an accountable system to seal the loopholes of theft, and also considering our general election, whereby after every general election, we always have dissenting opinions, possibly leading us to any sorts of violence and protests. I'd like a Kenya whereby we consider technology. I'm really proposing the blockchain technology, and I'll request people like Wakili Ndegwa, and I'll request the next leaders that we will vote in to represent us in the parliament to go and possibly pass a bill, or rather, if we can go for a popular initiative through the Article 257 of the Constitution, we can come up with a blockchain technology whereby we vote just using our gadgets. I believe this is possible. People are fond of selling us fear that this can be compromised. Can only be compromised by killing the custodians, like it was done to Musando. But that should not be the case. Through such a decentralized form, using blockchain technology, public funds can also be managed. I hope there are people who have understood this concept, and we should give them more platform to explain. I know of Mr. Vincent from, I think he is from the Asia, he comes from Asia. So that is the Kenya I really expect, and I believe it is possible. This is very possible, and we are going to keep pushing on. Above all, we will be on the streets to make sure that our voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Tom. The politicians are put on the spot. So, Eugene, I hope you have plenty to respond to all those questions. Mizani, real quick.
Yeah, sure. I would love to now welcome all the speakers and, of course, our listeners that are tuned in. If you like to contribute to the talk, you can do that in the chat section. Also, request you to share the space and invite as many people as possible as we look at the Kenya we want with Gen Zote. I am privileged to actually be speaking to Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, Party Leader, DAP Kenya, lawyer, lawmaker, 10th Parliament, 10th Defense Minister, Republic of Kenya, and the titles cannot be underscored because this is a man that is not new to us. At one point, we had decided we are not talking to politicians, but guess they have found a way, and they always find a way to be part of the table and discuss with that. Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, I'll start on a very simple statement that on the 25th of June 2024, Kenya faced something equal to a coup. Do you share those sentiments, Honorable Wamalwa?
Yes, I do. Do you get me?
Yes, we
Loud
can
and
hear
clear.
you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I think on the 25th of June 2024.
Unfortunately, we don't hear Eugene, or is it just me, Mizani?
I think serikali imemkatia internet. Unaweza ongea na wao kidogo.
Tony, do you have friends that can? Unfortunately, I guess.
Let me try and call him to leave and come back in, because I think he would have to leave and come in again.
Yeah, let's hear from Kadhomi in the meantime. Kadhomi, we are talking about the finance bill. We are talking about the Kenya we want. Go ahead. I don't hear Kadhomi either. Does anyone?
She's muted, so I don't know what's happening, but let's try that again.
No, I'm here. I think it takes a second to unmute, but I'm here. Thank you, Scope. You can hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for this space. First is to say, you said that you're sort of petrified because of the ruling, the finance bill 2023. We are happy. We are so happy. Whatever happens, Kenyans are very happy. You talk to a Kenyan with a pay slip, you'll understand the pain people are going through here, and SMEs. We are happy. We just don't care. We are happy, and it seems many people don't understand the kind of government we have. We are dealing with a criminal syndicate government. Please, that's what you're dealing with. You're trying to rationalize the government you think we should have in your head with the practical government that we have. We do not have a government, guys. You have to understand the kind of people we're dealing with. They have passed any bill they've pushed in parliament. It's not for the good of the people. Any policy this administration has pushed, nothing for the good of the people. Someone needs to tell me one. They came in, they did away with Linda Mama. They changed the help system. Everything they have done is not for the good of Kenyans. And because I know I do not have a lot of time, I want to say a word of thank you to our lawyers, Advocate Ndegwa, Akina Okeo Mtata. God bless you so much and give you the strength to keep fighting for us. Sometimes you're only able to go to the streets, but you, our lawyers, are able to go to court and fight for the nation. I would want to talk to Ndegwa about the legislations that have been passed regarding food in this country. It started with the Uhuru administration, where the Seeds and Varieties Act was passed. An act of parliament that is actually unconstitutional. I know there's a court case that is going on. What can be done for so many people to understand and to have the public understand what exactly that bill says? Another thing I want to talk about is about the agriculture bill. There is an intention, a very clear intention to hijack the food security in this country. I may not be having the exact names, but I know there's an agriculture bill. I know there's a livestock bill. The agriculture bill criminalizes agricultural activities if you do not have a certificate and crazy bills that you don't even understand. There's the livestock bill that was passed, was tabled by Ichung'wa. Please, someone, the legal minds, try and help us, whereby there is a board to oversee animal husbandry production of livestock in this country. Just imagine a pastoralist in Samburu or Narok having to register the number of cows they have with a board that has been set by the government, and the punitive penalties if they are not registered. Guys, our lawyers, help us. There is an intent, and this is a globalist takeover of our food security in this country. If you ask me, you'd rather not even have money, but have food, and good food. What this president did when he came in is allowing GMO. And if you all recall, in the Kibaki administration, there was public participation, and Kenyans spoke loudly and clear, and they said they don't want GMOs. He came in hata kwa amemaliza wiki mbili, he allowed GMOs. There are so many things that are happening chini ya maji. People really don't know what is going on. Food security is such a serious issue. You will never understand it until the day you have the money and you're going to buy food, and all the food that you can get is GMO food in the shops. And what is this GMO food supposed to do? They're supposed to make us, the GMO foods are supposed to make us constant customers of Big Pharma. Our lawyers look into this and let's know what exactly is happening with food production in this country.
Thank you, Kathomi. We had to give you the time limit, not because what you're saying is so pertinent, and actually these are discussions we've been having for the last 3 years, by the way, particularly around food sovereignty, meaning sovereign food security that is authentically African. So very pertinent issues, but in the interest of time, just to hear from everyone, we do have to move on. But absolutely, that's a very, very important discussion that we must continue, and we've been having. Um, I will surprise all of you, the room, in saying that there is one aspect of this bill, of the bills that I actually really lament that Kenyans have been misled into fighting against our own interest, and that is the idea of affordable housing. That is something that we should actually be fighting for, and it's the only thing that I have actually agreed with in all of these bills. We should have some type of housing plan, but we must end slums. There should be no undignified housing for anyone in Kenya. We shouldn't be having slums. We shouldn't be having informal settlements, and there should be a way to fund that housing and to do it in a way that where government can provide public housing. So we need economists as well as lawyers, because some of these things that we are fighting, some of them have actually been passed down onto us from those same globalists because they did not want to pay taxes. By the way, the anti-tax thing, the whatchamacallit, that came down to Kenya started out because in 2023, in January, American and foreign corporations had to start paying income taxes to the tune of 15%. I don't know if Eugene, you were actually part of the government when that was passed, if you remember that. I would love to hear from you about that particular aspect, but also you can bring us up to date. Mizani, I see your hand up. We have Eugene back. Why don't we go to Eugene and see if we can hear him this time? Eugene,
Yes, can you hear me?
loud and clear.
Yes. I think I was just concluding by saying as to the ramifications of what happened on the 25th of June, really that amounted to a vote of no confidence in the administration and the parliament. And ideally, in an ideal situation, like Musalia said, when the finance bill, goes down, the government goes down. But these are two finance bills back to back, 2023 and 2024. One nullified by the court, and the other one thrown out by the Gen Z pressure. So really, this is where we are, but we are not in an ideal situation where we would seek a fresh mandate for a fresh election. Now, we need to look at what can be done. And I think for those who have observed that, and then we go back to the Finance Bill 2022, where the whole administration, where we're serving, was. The main thing that actually went up, and when we had this bottom-up economic transformation agenda better, everything went from bottom up, particularly on fuel. If you do recall, we were at 8% VAT on fuel in that finance bill of Act of 2022. Then it went to 16%. And there were many other levies, about 16 on fuel alone. And that is why the cost of living went high. We went to the streets, there were demonstrations. Then after that, we decided to go for dialogue. I was a member of the NADCO. The main issue that we put on the table was cost of living. But unfortunately, it was not addressed last year. For 6 months, we were at Bomas. Cost of living was not addressed. We dealt more of political class issues, positions for the prime cabinet secretary, position for leader of opposition, and more women. So that is where we lost it. Had we actually dealt with this issue last year, probably we would not have lost the 75 lives and the 60 lives this year. This is where we stand, unfortunately, but we must thank the court for restoring order and giving power back to the people. Thank you.
Eugene, I want to press you because you say if you're telling us what I guess we have been saying and what we have been seeing, which is that when you go into those rooms, you're talking about the interests, the positions for the political class. You are part of those discussions. I'm not going to claim that I've heard you speak in every instant that you're speaking. But did you speak up at the time that those were the discussions that were being had? Not about the people of Kenya, but about political positions for the usual suspects?
Yes, we did. And unfortunately, our colleagues in Kenya Kwanza totally refused to discuss the issue of cost of living. They say this is our business. We are the ones governing. We have a manifesto to run. You, the opposition, stay off this. We can only agree on the issue of the positions. And that is why the end product of NADCO really did not address the Wanjiku issue of cost of living. The English say a stitch in time saves 9. Had we stitched this last year, probably wouldn't have gotten the country to where we did this year. And that's why I was the dissenting voice in Bomas when the cost of living issue was taken off the table. And the report literally carried mostly the other issues of positions and other matters. So I did not append my signature to that in protest. But as things stand today, I think one issue that I agree with all the speakers, which is the Kenya that we want, and I think all we need to embrace is a Kenya that is a value-based society. From a valueless society, we did put values in our constitution under Article 10. And some of those, like integrity, accountability, inclusivity, would deal with most of the ills in Kenya of tribalism and corruption. If we only embrace those values under Article 10 of our Constitution and work towards making Kenya a truly value-based society.
And then back to the intrigues of today. I have questions about that, but I'm also going to give you, Mizani, the opportunity to ask a question before I go on too long. I do want to ask though, because we see, again, all the same usual suspects. We saw your friend Kalonzo Musyoka. I don't know if that was a picture on Tony's timeline, if that was a picture from today, but if it was, Kalonzo Musyoka was in that photograph, standing next to Baba and a number of other people from Azimio. And then we hear these statements saying, sort of dissenting voices. And I can't help wondering, I've said this before about speaking from both sides of the mouth, and politicians, in Kenya, like somebody else said earlier, it's a constant soap opera. I'm intrigued if Kalonzo's position hasn't changed. I can't help thinking, why was he there? What was he doing in that meeting? Over to you, Eugene, and then let's hear from Izani.
I think I must tell you the truth that all is not well in our Azimio house, because we were with the people through last year, through the demonstrations. We were on the side of the people fighting against the rising cost of living and the taxes. And you do recall that our Azimio members of parliament, 88 of them stood with the people in saying no to the high taxes. And we had 176 members on the other side that passed that bill that now became the Act of the Finance Act 2023 that has been nullified by the court today. Again, when you come to the current Finance Bill 2024, our side again stood with the people. But recently, there have been developments where there were talks between our leader, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and President William Ruto. Most of us in Azimio were not party to it, including the negotiations that led to the appointments of some of the members from Azimio. We have dissented openly, and even internally, the rest of the Azimio member constituent parties have said we are not party to it. Our position remains the same tonight. The offer of joining government was not made to Azimio. It was made to ODM. And that is why when you look at the list of the 6 who appointed ODM members, they've made changes in the party today. There were further consultations today, but as to our position, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper, NAC Kenya, Martha Karua, Jubilee, PNU, KANU, we all stand with the people of Kenya. We support the Gen Zs, the millennials, and all those who are fighting the harsh taxes of Zakayo and the bad policies of Kenya Kwanza. We stand with the people tonight. I wish to confirm that.
Thank you, Eugene. And this is Mizani, and I'll have 2 questions for you. One, I go back to my former question on what happened on the 25th of June. Was it necessarily people revolting against a bad governance system that has impoverished them? Or did we have what the president described as a goon-infested demonstration that turned what would have been a better course for governance to actually take advantage and attack institutional, buildings or whatever it is? What do you make of that specific event?
I do recall what happened, during the French Revolution. It was started by a regime that would not listen to the people, and even when the people were at the gates of the palace, the Queen Antoinette was asking, "Why are they making noise?" They say the people have no bread. Say, well, if they have no bread, let them eat cake. The insensitivity of a regime that's out of touch with the reality, the arrogance, is what led to what happened in France. It's what led to what happened in Kenya on the 25th of June. The people participated in the budget-making process as they're entitled by the Constitution. In fact, 90% of Kenyans said no to the Finance Bill 2023. It's one that went through the largest public participation process. But when it came to the members of parliament, there was someone to State House.
All right,
you can hear me?
Yes, Eugene, just a quick one then. Okay, go ahead.
It is that breakdown of communication between the people and their representatives. When parliament is captured, the members are called to status and told, do not remove even a comma or a full stop, pass the bill as it is. Then it bastardizes the process of public participation and the right of the people to be heard and to be represented. So the people are revolting against a parliament that had been captured, that was not listening to them, and that is why the people went to take back their authority.
In an ideal situation, Eugene, you've sat in the cabinet, so you understand how information, and for that matter, very interesting position, that is defense. One would have said there was security lapse. We had the deputy president going ahead and saying the president was misadvised in matters national security and what was happening in the country. Would you argue that that was a very intentional occurrence on that particular day? And why I ask that is because we have seen the Azimio team, rather the ODM team, seeming to be winning a number of seats in the nominees' positions. What is it that Honorable Raila Odinga traded for those positions?
I think that's a question you should ask him. It'd be unfair to ask me that question, because you know where I stand. I do not agree with the decision to go into bed with William Ruto, who is seen as the oppressor, against the liberation, the movement of the Gen Zs. Why did these young people go to parliament? Because many of them have reached a point where they have nothing to lose. If you look at, I had one of the speakers talk about deaths by suicide. These matters came before us at Bomas. When we were shown the figures, the percentages that had more than doubled, we were shocked, because many Kenyan families cannot make ends meet, even the middle class. Their pay slips, you look at them, they have been taxed until what they are giving to the government is more than what they are taking home. So I think that is where we reached, and we must look at where the rain started beating us. When we had members of parliament cross the aisle to the other side, an artificial majority created, then we created a tyranny of numbers that has given us these tyrannical laws that have today been nullified by the court. Thank God, the justice is still our shield and defender.
Indeed, our shield and defender is the justice, and in the words of the Constitution, the national anthem. Now, Redemptor, you have enough time stated that if we are going to allow the nominees to take over the nominations and become CSs, they definitely be taking checks with blood in their hands. Is that the position you still hold? Redemptor, are you with us? All right, we don't have Redemptor. Maybe we'll flip to you, Tony, and then to Dr. Mumbi. Tony, if you don't mind taking the same question, because Redemptor is back with us. Redemptor, greetings. Well, can you hear us?
I was just going to ask Eugene 2 questions. Then I can comment later after Redemptor. I wanted to ask Eugene, now that ODM have gone to bed with the government, and of course, even the official leader of opposition now is an ODM person in parliament, it means there is no opposition in parliament. There is, of course, a problem of ODM now being in bed with Zakayo. What are the options for the opposition who have said no? How will you be able to assist the Kenyan public in being able to raise these concerns? Would you have public rallies? Would you be able to do things that seem to complement what the Gen Zs are doing? Or how will you tackle this problem? Otherwise, Ruto will be able to control parliament. He'll be able to control the executive. There'll be no checks and balances on him. What do you and Kalonzo and those who have said no, what are you going to do about it? And then you can also clarify a problem I've had with Briscoe has been asking me who is older, me or you?
Can I proceed?
Yes, I'll finish. Go ahead.
Yes, I think first of all to clarify that in Azimio there are many constituent parties, and it's only one party that has engaged into some negotiations with the William Ruto administration. The rest of us remain firmly in the opposition, and we will not take any positions on the government side. We have made our position very, very clear, and we stand with the people. We'll continue fighting for the people, and we'll continue doing what the opposition does. We will engage the people. We will also mobilize our members of parliament to continue fighting for the people inside and outside of parliament. Thank you. And Tony and I age mates. And the Kikuyu have a saying, "Nyumbanari ka itumanago."
Thank you, Waziri. Cheers. Bye. Aye.
Dr. Mumbi, what say you? Do you have any questions or input? Oh, sorry. I think we were going to go to Redemptor. Actually, sorry, Dr. Mumbi. Redemptor?
That's absolutely fine.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Mumbi. Redemptor. Mizani had asked you a question. Mizani, do you want to repeat it?
I believe Redemptor got the question because I was asking in terms of those who have been nominated into cabinet, including the ODM team. Redemptor has argued in the past that most of these nominations are courtesy of blood that was shed of innocent Kenyans. Redemptor, do you think that in itself provided other people a political lifeline? And how do we move forward as a country?
I said the other day, and I said this with sarcasm, that these nominations were made for the young people, to divide the map. And the anger you see among the young people again is, did we go to the streets and lose our innocence only for these two political groups that have held us hostage for the last 20 years to come and claim positions? So I don't think it's going to be an easy thing for the citizens. Like Tony keeps saying, there will be no money for them to share out. And then they've been calling this cabinet a skunk, and now they are part of the skunk. So yes, the nominations for me are in bad taste. They make a mockery of the loss of life. And they could have waited for 2 years if they believe and free there's fairness and they're popular, instead of riding on a wave where people want change and they're saying we are tribalists. And these young people gave us a lifeline in terms of being tribeless and partyless. And then they take us back and they start dividing people, the Kamba nation, the Murembe nation, the Luo nation, and people have bled and have died and are hurting because of that. So for me, these were not nominations based on competence or anything. These are managers of a political crisis that they're experiencing. They're not here to give us services. So yes, I still hold that they really spat on the young people who were looking for good governance, not tribal lineages. And I've heard the young people say now these young people are going to be militarized to hurt each other. How do you divide Kenyans and the people who are the leaders of today, not the people who are about to retire and go to the grave? And then you come and take these young people and tell them one group is already radicalized by ideology and by facts and by information, and the other group is being militarized out of the weapon of poverty.
Thank you so much, Redemptor. So, excuse me. Eugene asked, where did the rain start beating on us? And the thing is, it didn't just start with the Ruto administration, let's be fair, right? For example, if I'm not mistaken, for example, the housing component was started in the previous regime. I did say that the housing component is actually a good thing, and we should have some type of bill to govern housing. But Eugene, you were talking about people taking paychecks home and just not being sufficient. And this is not just to Eugene; it's for everyone. But I think for somebody like Eugene, who's been in government, we haven't had living wages in Kenya. You are traveling. Government officials are traveling. There's government officials and legislators traveling for benchmarking overseas all the time. They know what living wages are in other countries. They know that goods in Kenyan supermarkets are far more expensive than in European, American, Middle Eastern, Chinese supermarkets, for example. So we don't have living wages. We don't have um, people can't afford healthcare because we don't have a national healthcare system. We don't have the ability to control our means of production. The prices of our commodities are priced by foreigners. There's no such organization such as OPEC for tea and coffee. These are really the fundamental issues that I think Gen Z have been very eloquent in expressing. That, and I think Gen Z has been very clear that it is not just this administration. Yes, this administration happens to be in power. Yes, the Finance Bill 2024 is especially egregious. But by the way, for example, the the bill, the very offensive bill that criminalizes seed sharing was passed, if I'm not mistaken, under Uhuru during your administration. So the rain started beating us when the political class. I don't know if there was a time they cared. I think maybe immediately after independence. I think Kenya had a bit of a honeymoon for just over a decade. But even in that decade, there were political assassinations that, that Kenyans still harken back to. But the rain started beating us when Kenyan politicians didn't care about that average man, woman, and child who cannot take a sufficient paycheck home. Eugene, you acknowledge that this didn't just start in this administration, correct?
I do acknowledge that, and the housing levy actually was part of the Big Four agenda. Housing was a key pillar, and indeed, when that matter came up, there was a serious pushback. There was even legal challenge to it, and the issue was, well, it's a good idea, and it's something that is transformative, but it should be voluntary. I think that is one thing that was pushed, and as a government that will listen, we backed down on it. The only difference between us and the current administration is that they're very obstinate, they're very arrogant, they don't want to listen, and they would say, it's either a way or the highway. Na mutalipa ushuru wa nyumba, mpende msipende. I think it's that attitude that is so oppressive to many Kenyans who will not be beneficiaries. First of all, there's no clear way how they're going to get these houses. There are all sorts of issues. So I agree with you that it's a challenge that has been there. The difference is how we addressed it. When you listen, you back down, you make changes. You can, like I said, a stitch in time can save 9. Had they listened last year to 90% of Kenyans who said no to this oppressive bill, we would not have lost the 75 lives we did. They wouldn't have actually brought another finance bill 2024 that was worse, and we've lost, now we're talking of 60 lives. We're being told over 50 bodies in the city mortuary. Many still have bullet wounds, meaning these numbers could go to over 100. We go beyond the 75 of last year. I mean, was it worth it? Were over some bad piece of legislation that Kenyans had said no to, but we imposed? I think these are some of the things that we must hold responsible, those who bear the greatest responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Ndegwa, Wakili, the bill that outlaws, I don't know which one it is exactly, but the bill that outlaws seed sharing between farmers is actually unconstitutional. Did you, as a constitutional lawyer, is this something you are aware of? I'm sure you go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, and for granting me the opportunity to address such kind of a distinguished gathering. We are talking about the Agriculture and Food Authority Act. The act was enacted in 2013. That is when it was first legislated. And it's an act that consolidated all other acts that were dealing with agriculture previously. So they were all brought under the armpit of one legislation, the Agriculture and Food Authority, which we call AFA. It is true that the act itself has been subjected to constitutional testing, and it's one that also bringing out the question of seeds sharing and also of the GMO and Modified Act, which is also an act in this country. And we have attempted to test it before the Constitutional Court. But unfortunately, this time round, the matter was taken before the ELC Court, which was dealt with by Justice Angote. And Justice Angote, even after Zakayo had legalized GMOs and these seed sharing issues, he decided to approve of the same. So as we speak, the matter is pending before the Court of Appeal. I may not have a lot of comments on it because it's active litigations, and I don't want to be accused of sub judice. But yes, it is true, the matter is before the Court of Appeal as we speak. We are yet to hear what the Court of Appeal will state about it. But I keep on saying that the courts are not blind to what happens in the open. When agitation is pushed and the court gets to note of it, that Kenyans do not want a particular legislation, most often than not, because judges are also human beings and they live in this society, they're also inclined to perhaps hold in respect of what the people are saying and where the people are in those in that particular issue. You can see now the consequence of the push that we had for the finance bill 2024. You could not blindly say that it did not have any effect in the matter in the manner in which the Court of Appeal has today decided the Finance Act of 2023. So the more we push, even in this issue of the seed sovereignty, the more policies will be formulated, and the courts will also take note of it. So we must understand, and it has been submitted before, and I've also heard my friend Tony Gashoka submit about it, about the question of globalization and the global push to diminish our ability to satisfy our food needs. The question of the global agenda must be seen as, in my view, as a policy that KK government is pushing. Because KK government and its leader, they are just foster boys. And in my view, they are just flower girls holding brief for the West. The agenda is bigger because they want to create a unique and a dependency food market for us, for African states. So that if we are not able to govern our food granaries, then if you cannot govern your granary, you cannot even speak about your sovereignty. If you cannot feed your people, then how do you start speaking about the question of the power belonging to the people? So it's an agenda that must also be brought within the armpit of the agitations that we're also having, so that the people who make policies and be it the courts that makes determinations will also take note of it. We are yet to see and have an opportunity to urge that matter before the Court of Appeal. It has no date up to now. We will have to wait for the directions of the Court of Appeal. But perhaps allow me to ask my senior Eugene Wamalwa one question in respect to the fate of Azimio. Why are the affiliate parties still clinging to it? If the horse is dead, why have you not declared the horse dead? And why have you just been waiting for Mr. Raila Odinga to whip you people? Why have you not come out clearly to say that we are now burying Azimio, we look for another political outfit? I rest at that and land there, and I'll still remain available.
There's a question for you, Eugene, so you can answer that.
Thank you very much. I want to tell my learned friend that as he is aware, of all the constituent parties of Azimio, it's only one party that is engaged with William Ruto's administration. The rest of us have said tawe, like we say in Western Kenya. We have said no. And some, as you can see, like our learned senior Martha Karua and her party NAC Kenya have already initiated the divorce proceedings. So she's in the process of withdrawing. Tomorrow, our learned friend Peter Munya and his party PNU, they have their neck. And consultations are going on to see whether we can agree with our colleagues in ODM that those who want to go to government, they should leave Azimio and join government. Those who want to stay in Azimio, our position is that we will not go into bed with Zakayo and his oppressive laws, his oppressive regime, and we will stand with the people, particularly our young people who have paid the price, the ultimate price, actually. And we cannot really be dining when our young people are dying for a cause, and we abandon the higher ideals they are fighting for deals with Zakayo. We cannot do that. That is our position. And if that will be what breaks Azimio, so be it. So you might be seeing in days to come some parties withdrawing or a position being given collectively about the future of Azimio. But for me and my house, DAPK, we stand with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Dr. Mombi? Dr. Mombi, you're muted in case you're trying to speak.
Oh my gosh, once again, yes. I've heard what Honorable Eugene Wamalwa has said, but I think for me, qua ground, the optics were wrong. And the entire political, because you see now, as you guys call him, Zakayo, he's created this image among the people that politicians lie and politicians can't be trusted. So even when we're told it's only one party out of the whole Azimio fraternity and stuff, to us on the ground, it's like the entire political class has betrayed us. And there has to be a really big move from the political class, from the opposition to assert themselves. If they are the majority, I mean, I don't know now, those are the internal party things, but yeah, the optics have been wrong. And I think just they've been caught up, their collateral damage to the ending of the political class, sadly. But that's my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Mombi. Is it really just merely the optics? Or is it really that that it's absolutely wrong if it's not serving Kenyans, right? Whatever is happening. Tony, over to you.
So that I talk on something else, I just want to thank Eugene for being here because, to be very honest, a brief scoop, behind the scenes, I've been talking very deeply with my age mate and brother Eugene, and I have also been talking very closely to Kalonzo Musyoka about what Dr. Mombi has just said, and Wakili, my brother Wakili, has raised, that they are looking very bad in the eyes of Kenyans, and that the time has come for them to take decisive action. So by coming to these spaces, I'm very happy that Eugene has come because, it's very hard because the public is very annoyed with the politicians. And unless you start engaging the public, they will never trust you again. Maybe this is a good step, but you can go back to Kalonzo and tell him what you're hearing in these spaces is things are very bad. And people don't want to, have measures. You're either with the people or without. But I wanted to go to something different about Nane Nane because of time. The country now is going to be asking the Kenya we are, the Kenya we want, and where do we go from here? And one of the reasons I am very motivated by the Nane Nane call is because it reminds me about the March on Washington that was conducted by Martin Luther King Jr. and the proponents then of the civil rights struggle in the US. It became a rallying call that brought over 1 million people to march on the mall in Washington. And it became a pivotal point in the war for changing the United States. I'm saying this because, in political emancipation or revolution, you have a war is there, but of course, war is a series of battles. Against Zakayo was the fighting of the finance bill. If you look at what that finance bill has done, had to be withdrawn because of people pressure. But now, because of Omutata's work in court, the Finance Bill 2023 has also been defeated. And many can argue it was also defeated because then the public also rose against the Finance Bill 2023, as Eugene was saying. And therefore, this battle of the Finance Bill, which touches the economy, has been a success. Winston Churchill talked about the Battle of Britain, when the UK and the German Air Force had the major battle. And historians say that the Battle of Britain changed the course of the World War II. And I think the defeat of both the Finance Act of 2024 and that of 2023 energizes the cause for Nane Nane, because the dynamics, whether ODM has gone to government or not, and whether we can push these other leaders of Asimio not to cooperate with Odinga will depend on people pressure. And the success of Nane Nane will have ramifications. It has already caused Zakayo trouble. It's causing a split in Azimio. It's causing a split in ODM. It means that the people power is working. So Nane Nane ought to be organized so that all Kenyans march on Nairobi from wherever they are. People need to bus, people need to travel, people need to find a way of getting to the capital so that we can have, an act of force that can go into Kenya's history as the biggest day Kenyans can come together. And this will begin to re-energize our young people and everybody involved to have a goal that we can be able to achieve. So I would like to use these spaces to appeal and to actually say, look, we are halfway there. And if we are able to make one moral statement, because with this court ruling, it has re-emphasized that we were right on attacking the financial aspects of our struggle. And if we can on Nane Nane celebrate the fall of the 2023 bill plus the 2024 bill, we can be able to get back the momentum, answer Ruto's political reshuffle with people power, and be able to show Zakayo that he has gained nothing, and put Wamalos and Kalonzos of this world to join us so that if they're on the streets, the bullets might be less fired at our people.
So Tony is saying and stating that the politicians are taking some coffee in hotel rooms as they watch Kenyans getting killed on the street. That's interesting, Tony. I'll be holding you accountable to this if they don't show up on Nane Nane. But for now, I want to engage all the other speakers. And please, Eugene and the rest of the team, hold on as we want to hear what Kenyans think about the Kenya they want. Let's start with you, Web 3.0. What kind of a country do you want moving forward?
Thank you a lot, the host, for asking me that question. Am I audible?
You are. Kindly proceed.
Yes. So the Kenya I want, I'll just outline a quick Kenya I want. The Kenya I want is where I'm able to know how the money is being utilized. The government decisions are being made. I want to be able to see what they are doing behind the closed doors. I want to be able to see transparency everywhere. Basically, how much money do we have as reserves in the central bank, in our national coffers? How much of that money is flowing to which projects? What's the progress of those projects? And we are able to track that decision. Because I think the Kenya we want is a Kenya where our taxes work. It's not a Kenya where we are overtaxed and people under-deliver. We want a Kenya where the programs that are started for education continue to prosper and new ideas come in, and they come in at costs, not at cost and scale, not at overquoted prices. We want a Kenya where the healthcare system works, a Kenya where the emergency system works, a Kenya where the education system works and it's all transparent. We want a Kenya where we're able to know how much the president has spent this month on entertainment, on hosting. The national guest to the president shouldn't be a secret. I'm talking about a Kenya that is transparent. I want a Kenya that we know the MPs, the basically the motions they are working on in the parliament and the laws they are working on. We are very well aware and we are able to see that. And we are able to track this, and every Kenya is a participant in it. And with that, we can lay actually a foundation for a successful society. And the reason I propose such a Kenya, and I would love such a Kenya, is because one of the things is I've been in a forum where we've looked at really what the issues the Kenyans are raising. And I've realized what we keep doing is we raise the symptoms. But really, when you look to diagnose the problems that we are all facing, Ruto is a symptom. A malfunctioning democracy is a symptom. Malfunctioning parliament is a symptom. And a malfunctioning county system is a symptom. The base root of this is, as a self-critiquing Kenyan would do, is that I'm surrounded by dishonest men all over me. You look in my family, you look in the neighborhood, you look in the county level, you look at the national level. We just have a chain and a culture of dishonesty. So when a nation is looking to move forward and build the basic foundation, we gotta look at what are we building on. Because when we talk about impunity, when we talk about lack of accountability, when we talk about the national budget losing $1 trillion and yet we don't have solutions, it's because one of us knows majority of Kenyans are dishonest. So when we look towards this, the accountability will start with us, those around us, and educating them. So for us to be able to build accountability, it will take time. It will take education, because education is a key part of that. We have to use the churches. We have to use the forums we get to speak about accountability. And part of the key thing, I think, that the forum that I'm working with and people so far that I'm looking in and are starting, because we even had the first conference on mitigating corruption and creating open and accountable systems, is we looked at technology. It sounds so cliche, but technology really could play 60% to 80% of enabling the activists, now those who already have the tools to hold government accountable. Imagine all this. We didn't have a mobile telephony system or even a landline system that was established in Kenya. But yet, because technology was advanced enough, we were able to skip the entire shenanigans and just come straight to the mobile system. Banking wasn't established well enough. Yet with mobile money services and key M-Pesa, and that being able to scale, even a poor mama mboga doesn't need to be paying monthly maintenance fees for bank accounts, together with the innovation like the Equity Bank zero account, balance and zero maintenance fee. So when I talk about government, this is really a radical idea we are introducing. But so far, when you look even at white papers of governments across the world, especially when you look at, governments in Asia, you look at governments in Europe, you look at governments in the US, are studying this really hard. And it's something we call basically a distributed ledger. So the key idea is simple. We cannot root out dishonesty, from society, but we need to create systems that if we switch in a good leader right now, the next 10 years, what comes after 10 years, 20 years? Will we get another dishonest man and a cabal of thugs in government who are no longer dishonest again? Then they regress us. Because I've seen this cycle in South America, in parts of Asia, where you get a very good leader, visionary government, they take the country forward. Then because the systems are not resilient, an idiot comes in and they just take the country backwards. And that's very stressing. So we gotta think about systems keenly. So when we have a distributed ledger, what this all mean is we have a national trust fund.
Web3, that is a sign that you need to learn, if you don't mind. Make the distribution ledger quick, and then we can be able to go to the next speaker. So I'll give you an extra minute, please.
Yeah, so the distributed ledger basically work to track all these things with a national trust account for collections and for distribution to each and every project. One of the key hurdles in this, and why we Atabona Wakili, we welcome you to the forum and also to send me materials. There's a lot of materials from Be Real, from Jogona, from so many people I'm trying to aggregate so that the next series of the forum, we're able to present a bigger aggregated ideas. We welcome the lawyers, and also Mr. Eugene, we welcome you to our forum, Tony Gashoka to our forum, because we need people who already have access in government to understand the inner workings of the government and how we can start. But an idea is here, and we have to create systems that are resilient to any single leader who makes bad decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Web3. So Web3 strategy makes absolute sense. I think we really need to have a whole entire space on that, to be honest. Let's have that as a space and a topic on its own, because it's a big topic. And I love where you have taken us, because now we are talking about, we have rejected these bills. What do we want? That's what I would love to hear. Kenny, you've been very, very patient. So let's hear from you, and then from Sergio, who's also been very patient, and then from June, and then, before June, Daniel, and then June, and then 254, in that order. I'm Kenny, and then Sergio.
Thank you, Brief Scoop. Am I audible?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you. Fellow Kenyans, this is what I want for Kenya. I think the first thing we need to do is replace the executive and the legislature because they're incompetent. We've already been almost through 2 years of their existence in office, and they keep being issued red cards. Red cards from the judiciary, red cards from Gen Z, red cards from the opposition. We don't need to wait for any more red cards. They're incompetent. They need to be replaced, both the executive and the legislature. Secondly, whoever we replace them with needs to cancel all odious debt because it is illegal. We do not have to pay, and we must not pay, and we will not pay debts that people borrowed, yet we did not authorize them to. We must cancel all odious debt. That is the first mandate of the next government, the next executive, and the next legislature. The third thing we have to do is to recover all looted assets and funds, whether they are abroad or in the country. I don't care if it goes back to 1960 something, it needs to start happening, and it must happen now. Personally, I am very mad because I have had to spend more than half my life as an economic exile. I do not want my kids to do the same. I love my country. I want to go live in it. And I cannot do that if people have hidden all the money abroad. Fourth, the next government must prosecute all the looters, put them in court, jail them, recover the money, prosecute, prosecute, prosecute. We cannot have progress without justice. So we have to prosecute not only the looters, but all those who have committed injustices like the extrajudicial killings. And we start now with the events of June 25th and going backwards. The last and final thing I want is a decentralized law enforcement in Kenya. The next government should put amendments that will decentralize law enforcement agencies like the police and the director of public prosecutions. We cannot have a situation where a court orders Matiang'i or whoever to go and arrest somebody and appear in court, and they do not do it because the police report to Matiang'i or whoever is the head of the police. We need to decentralize this so that if you're in the national government and you come and commit a crime in my county police, my county DPP will take you to court. This is what we need to do. And in that same regard, we also need to decentralize and delink functions of the IEBC from the executive. We cannot have a fox guarding the chicken house. Haiwezekani, no more of that. And last but not least, I want to make an appeal to Dr. Mumbi Seraki. I've been trying to reach you. I'll send you a DM. Please respond. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Asante sana Amkeni. Amkeni is telling you all to Amkeni, Sisi Zote. Sergio, over to you. I will ask one thing though, because this comes up again and again about changing the individuals. Is it really enough? Sergio, as you submit, go ahead.
Good evening, Kenyans. Am I edible? I mean, Maniskia.
I hope not, but you are audible.
Exactly. Anyway, my information is what I want people to digest about. And
speaking of edible,
I'm happy Eugene. I'm happy Eugene is here. And my question is, my very, very candid question is Eugene willing and ready to support the younger generation for the presidency?
That's your question? Okay, Eugene, I think.
That is one question.
Oh, okay.
Secondly, the political class that is here listening all the way to the top, it has come to a time you need to visit the inner villages of this country. And people are really, really, really annoyed. I was sharing yesterday evening with Wakili Njiro, who happens to be my classmate and village mate also. And I told him, if Ruto thinks that Nane Nane is a joke, people are willing to walk to Nairobi. This evening, as I was passing by somewhere having maize choma, you hear the conversation, people are silently talking, pole pole hivi nasikia, you left wondering, is the president deaf or is he not seeing Kenya? He's seeing his own planet. When people ask a question is, when we'll pay this debt until when? A question from the old generation to the X, to us the millennials, to these kids, ambaye ana assume left, right, and center. When these students start asking, me, I applied for my ID, when will I get it? Since last year, I'm supposed to join uni. I'm supposed to do this. Yet these people come on these places and everywhere bringing stupid, silly excuses. Call them as they are. Oh, we are printing. Which citizen was to expire in his own country? You have an expiry date on an ID card. Since when? Kama ni pesa inatafutwa, that's a very cheap way. And it's really annoying, even right into the villages. To that Wanjiko whom you think, haezi ona mbele. I can dare politicians to walk to the villages. They shall be whipped by those old men. Because they are seeing a generation die. They are seeing, when they ask, tumepeleka watoto shule, wataishi nyumbani mpaka lini? Tunaona tu watoto wa matajiri na wakubwa wakipata makazi. Kwani sisi hatukufundisha watoto wetu? People with masters. How do you tell someone with a master's degree aende akaoshe nyanya mzee? Ama how do you tell somebody with a master's aende akuwe mboch in Saudi? Simply because hazipata kazi. Because of simple mismanagement of the country's resources. Which businessman doesn't know he owes who money? Nani ako na deni ya nani ama nani? What is so shameful that the president anafunikia nani? Anajifunikia yeye, anajifunikia the previous. Is Eugene ready to call people to accountability where accountability is required? Because you cannot be talking of odious debt. Pesa iko na watu, si tunawalipia. It is unfortunate. Kazi sisi tumeshindwa kufanya. People have closed businesses. It's painful. It's really painful, and these people, if that hide how he thinks this thing is a joke, it is not a joke. I'm in an industry where I've seen people being unable to pay school fees.
I think brief scoop. Sir Joe
School
does not
fees.
understand that the drum sets are supposed to have.
Mtu ambaye hakuwa na shida ya kulipa school fees anafunga na balance hii term, yeye ingine anafunga na balance. You are even left. Unaona mtu hakuwa na shida. It is so painful, and the Kenya I want is where everybody is equal. You get an opportunity, either you are a farmer, you have land that has minerals, you benefit from it, lakini si kuibiwa. It is painful.
Sir Joe, the drums were to give you your last minute, so please wind up.
I would want a very honest answer of all that from Eugene. Even if they are his friends, is he willing to call them out to the full? Is he willing? That's it.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Can you hear me, Brief Scoop? I seem to be having a
I
communication
hear you.
issue.
It appears that Sir Joe could not hear you, but I do hear you. Go ahead, Mizani.
All right. So this is what we're gonna do. We realize that a lot of you are requesting the mics, so I will beseech all our speakers who are coming in to try and make their point. I know you cannot have enough time to go through all the speakers, but we'll do our very best. June, I see your hand. Allow me to ask Eugene. There are very specific questions that have been directed to you. Are you willing to support the new generation as they aspire to make a change to the top of the office? And number two, there's the issue of calling out corruption and acting towards it. Are you willing to be that messenger?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Sure, we can hear you. Proceed.
Yes, I am, and I want to assure you that the events of recent weeks, particularly the last 1 month, has been like a shock therapy for many politicians. They might not tell you this, but they are all shaken, right from State House down to the ward, that MCA down there. They are all shaken, and they know that it will no longer be business as usual, and things have to change. So I want to assure you that I'll be your messenger, talking to my colleagues in the opposition, that we must be accountable to the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you for the answer. Mizani, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, sure. He decided to ignore the part of supporting a candidature because he's a DAP party leader. I don't know what he thinks about, or is he planning to run again? Eugene?
Eugene, I think that you're still being
Yes.
challenged. There's a question for you.
Can I take that one? Sorry, I was trying to be brief and I left a very important question. And I want to answer that straight up as one person who believes in the power of the young people and what they have to offer this nation. I think our politics has been a preserve of the rich and the elderly for a long time, but that is going to change. And we initiated this generational change agenda in the Kibaki administration when we were young ministers. I was Minister for Justice. William Ruto was Minister for Agriculture, and Uhuru Kenyatta was Minister for Finance. And we started the generational change vugu that was called G7. And indeed, after Kibaki, we had a younger generation, the Uhuru generation, coming in after Uhuru, Ruto, and I hope I will be next. And anyone younger than Ruto should be bold enough to go for it. So yes, I will be the first person to support a younger leader than William Ruto, a younger leader who has integrity, who believes in Dream Kenya, and who is ready to be accountable to the people of the Republic.
Haya, tutakungoja. Brief Scoop, allow me to bring in June because we want to move the queue, if you don't mind. June, you have the mic. Kindly proceed. June, can you hear us?
Hi everyone. Yes, I can hear you. Eugene, we're waiting to see that because as the young people are accumulating for, is that all the old guards to go because you're all birds of the same feather. I can attest to it because I know all of you. And I know that it's just that sometimes you get a piece of the pie, sometimes you don't get a piece of the pie. And then that's when you accumulate for the rights of Kenyans. But in true sense, that is not truly who you are. To be a politician, by the way, you have to be an opportunist. And you have sought an opportunity here. I'm not going to support any of the old guards because I know even people like Martha Karua, very principled lady, brilliant, but she was the one accumulating for anarchy. Her and Ruto in 2007. As they said, they are going to go forth. Liwe Liwalo, that time we're talking about 1,000 lives. Right now we're talking about 100, 200 lives. We don't even know the numbers. We talked of 65 lives, well documented. Yesterday we heard of another 50 from the mainstream media. And we know the mainstream media have been very very careful with the truth. That's neither here nor there. I'm here just to say a few things. I'm here to talk about, because I know I have very limited time, yes? So the hottest commodity in town right now, ladies and gentlemen, is food and water resources. Food and water resources have surpassed what we called weapons of mass destruction. That was a few years ago. They have accumulated that in the global world. We have talked about what the global agenda is. We have talked of oil resources. That one was done and dusted with. They have secured that. If you watch a show on called The Grab, very highly acclaimed journalist talking about what is needed in terms of these first world countries to gain what they need to gain to be first world countries. So it is food and water. Where do we get food and water? Food and water is gotten from countries like Asia, continent, sorry.
Definitely got cut off there.
Okay.
Um,
It's okay.
okay,
So let me
okay,
just
you're back.
continue from where I'm saying. So
Yes,
there's a
food and water
yes, food
continents
and
like
water,
Asia.
yes. So we can only get this from a few continents, which is Asia and Africa, right? When we talk about housing, what are they trying to do with the housing agenda? They are trying to bring everybody to the city so that your farmland is accumulated to accumulate food for the West and the Saudi Arabias and all that. That's why we had this land tax. We are so keen on this housing agenda so that you all go to your kiberas. We stay in a 1 bedroom instead of staying in your mother's land and farming it, which might even be a better solution for you. They're trying to put you in a concentrated area so that you don't have access to your land. Because what we need now is land. They have everything. They have weapons of mass destruction. They have the resources. You have seen, I mean, this Gen Z have been so vocal. I don't need to repeat what they are saying in terms of how all our mining and manufacturing industries have been destroyed. Yeah? They want to destroy your basic rights.
I
I
think
don't
we
think that.
lost June.
Yeah, yeah, we.
Um, Briscoe, can we move as we wait for that? But I think June is raising a very fundamental issue on these natural resources, except the oils that we know and gold we know about. That is land, that is farmland for that matter. And I was one concerned individual when a bigger chunk of Kiambu decided to convert into concrete, concrete land. And for me, that is a big issue because we want to have housing. And I'm wondering what we're going to eat. If we want to say we want to be fed with people from Limuru, that tells you a lot. And Limuru now, they're also selling or shelling off because they want to have their land to accommodate people who cannot live in Nairobi. So the rich kind, the likes of Akinadegu, after a nice litigation in office, they go buy in Limuru. No more farmland. Let's proceed to the next speaker. June, if you can hear me, I want to
I
give
can
you
hear
a
you.
minute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Kindly take a minute, if you don't mind.
Okay.
June, we were letting you wind up. June, you're muted.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we couldn't hear you. We were saying we were giving you 30 seconds to wind up, please.
Okay, let me wind up. So this is how a superpower will defeat a country like Kenya. Number one, they deny you education. You can see the price of education going very high. Health, you'll be denied health, and you'll be denied housing. So they want you to even go to these overseas jobs so that we decrease the number of youth who are acclimating for their rights. Your parents will deal with them. We'll give them land rates. We'll tell them, now you can't afford this land, go. Because they want to grow their food on your land and export it at very mediocre prices so that they can now feed their people. Trust you me, if you have all the gold, all the resources, all the weapons of mass destruction, yes?
I think
All
we
right.
I think we got the gist of what June was saying. Let's move on to Daniel. But yes, very pertinent points. Daniel, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
I have 3 questions. The first question goes to Mr. Eugene Wamalwa. Now, before the whole Gen Z demonstration started, a very vocal MP, Gagadhoni Wamoshomba, was fighting the finance bill. And in one of our forums, she stated that last year, when there were demonstrations, the government and the opposition got into bed together, and one of the agreement was that the Azimio was going to get CS slots from the government, and they were happening within the next 2 months. Before the president named his CS nomination, his CS candidates, the same day, early in the morning, Robert Alai tweeted that the current realignment are not because of the Gen Z movement, but because of the agreement the government had with the opposition. So my question for you, Eugene Wamalwa, is, are you aware of any agreement between the government and the opposition where CS were where the opposition was guaranteed several CS slots? Because I believe this is just a charade to kutufunga macho of some sort. This was something that was agreed last year. It has nothing to do with the whole Gen Z movement. So my question to you, are you aware of such agreement? The next question is, today I saw that the Finance Bill 2023 was declared unconstitutional. And it isn't the only bill or the only task that the government has done that has been declared unconstitutional by the courts. Is it that the government lacks a constitutional lawyer who is supposed to advise the government so that we do not have all these things that the government are doing and are being declared unconstitutional? Or they are being advised and they are choosing to mutilate the constitution? My last question goes to Lawyer Ndegwa, na naona wakili yako kwa this space. We have seen so many youths being killed actually in the few weeks because of the mandamanos. Now, the bodies that are supposed to hold the police responsible, the IPOAs, the police commissions, the bodies that are supposed to bring these people to book and hold them accountable, when they are failing to do their jobs, we are seeing money being looted in both national and in county government. When we have EACC failing to do their jobs, because nobody has ever been prosecuted, nobody has been, no money has been recovered. When we are seeing all these laws being broken, and the bodies, the institutions that are supposed to hold the government accountable, when they fail to do their jobs, either because of incompetency or they are compromised, where do Kenyans go to? Where do we turn to? Because it is unfair for the rest of the Kenyans that they are doing their best to pay taxes, they're doing their best to follow the rules of the land, but when you have the government breaking the rules and nobody is holding them accountable, they're doing pretty much whatever they want, it becomes unfair to the rest of us. So where do we turn to? Where do we go? What steps do we take? Because if it is mandamano, Kenyans have been on the streets, they are being killed. We are seeing bodies being recovered in Kware, in Nairobi, in Mukuru kwa Jenga. Those are Kenyans being killed. Yet, no, we are not seeing something tangible that the people who are responsible, they are being arrested, they are being sentenced and jailed, so that we can feel good that we have a fair country. Now, the question of this forum is, what kind of a country, what kind of a Kenya we want? I want to live in a Kenya where the rule of law is followed, that regardless of your position in the society, when you break the law, you will be held accountable. I want to live in a country where every Kenyan can get access to good positions within the government or in anywhere without necessarily knowing somebody or trading favors, sexual or otherwise. I want to live in a country where we don't have millions of Kenyans sleeping hungry because they do not eat, yet the people who represent them, the people who have been hired by the people to do their jobs, are living a lavish life. They're showing their opulence, walking around with clothes and shoes and watches of so much money. They're buying choppers, they're doing all of these things, they're showcasing the money they have. Yet we have Kenyans who are sleeping hungry actually, and those people are supposed to be representing us. I want to live in a Kenya where the political elites, their kids are attending public school as much as our kids are going to these public schools. I want to live in a Kenya where the political elites are attending public hospital when they get sick, or they can send their kids or their relatives to public hospital and not sending them abroad, because that is what they're subjecting us. So with that, I want kindly to request the host to allow Eugene and the Wakili to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel Muli. Pertinent questions, and yes, the Kenya we want. We are not just against taxes. We are not just against the finance bill. There are things that Kenyans want. We want progressive taxation, not regressive taxation, right? Kenyans want to be able to get education that is free at point of use. That does not mean free education. It means that it's free at point of use because we've already paid for it with our taxes. Same with healthcare. Eugene Wakili, I think the question is for you, and maybe Tony as well. You can jump in here, and then we'll go to other speakers.
Thank you. Can I go first?
Yes, please, Eugene, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the first two questions, one, I can tell you that the Gen Z pressure is what brought Zakayo down. If you noticed the 25th of June, after that event, when Zakayo addressed the nation, he was still a very angry man. He was still, he hadn't come to terms with the reality. But when he made a subsequent address, and when the Gen Zs pressurized him to go to space, that was a different Zakayo. He was a humbled man. And that is how he was pushed to give in. The Zakayo of last year, when we did our demos against Finance Bill 2023, was a very arrogant man. He's the one who summoned all the MPs to State House and said, not even a comma. And he told us off, with a lot of arrogance, at Bomas, those who represented him were not talking to us. They were not talking with us. They were talking at us. The arrogance was there, and nothing could be agreed on the cost of living and the high taxation. They were overconfident. Why? Because they had already cannibalized the opposition. They started by cannibalizing Jubilee. They took over 25 members of parliament to their side. They took UDM. All these were Azimio members of parliament. They created an artificial majority in parliament. And that is what gave them the false sense of security, and that bred the arrogance that led to bloodshed in Kenya. Never did we at any time discuss about positions. They didn't need us. But the Gen Z pressure brought them to the table. So I want to tell you that is the position. And even when it came to now the talks about accommodating the opposition, the offer was not made to Azimio. As I said, we have many parties in Azimio. No offer has been made to me as Eugene Wamalwa, or to Kalonzo, he has said it, or to Karua, or to Kioni. Or it was made to ODM. They accepted it. And I think they have made their changes today with those nominees now resigning from ODM to serve Zakayo's government. For us, we have said there are only two sides, Zakayo's side or the people's side. We will stand with the people. That is where we stand.
Thank you, Bwana Eugene. So I think you're revealing here that no offers have been made to you I can't help wondering then, if the offer is made, will we be singing a different tune?
Not at all. We already made our announcement that we are not interested. Even if the offer was made to us, we will. I mean, we took our stand that we will not partake of the spoils. You know, when you look at what happened, I think for the young people, they were like, if it is hunting, the young people had actually chased the antelope; they were almost getting it. Now, for the elders to take the antelope and share, and not even throw a rib, not one Gen Z was given a position in the new cabinet. I thought it's a very, very unacceptable status, and we will not be party to it.
Thank you, Bwana Eugene. Go ahead, Wakil.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. These are very, again, engaging exercise where we are trying to think of what do we do, what Kenya do we want, how do we achieve that Kenya, and are we living in a country that has embraced institutionalization, functionality of institutions, and what do we do in the event where institutions that we have established fails Kenyans? I must begin by saying that the 2010 Constitution is one of the best documents that a country can never pledge to itself. But unfortunately, we are being led by an individual who has never ever read this Constitution. Remember, these individual purporting to leaders opposed the 2010 Constitution. So I have always believed that he swore to defend a document that he has never read. And it is evident, clear, that he doesn't know the content of this document. Otherwise, he would not be acting towards curtailing the rights of individuals or the freedoms of individuals under Article 37. It is because Mr. William Ruto does not appreciate the content of Article 37, that is why he's using all brutal means of suppressing the same. And you can see he has even suppressed institutions that are supposed to come in and act in the event where atrocities are committed. It is not true that we are helpless. It is not true that we do not have an alternative. The same constitution has created an avenue, and Article 2, which provides that international law and instruments of conventions and covenants are applicable in the Republic of Kenya. It has further created, and under Article 145, that even a president, though immune from municipal application of civil and criminal law, if he commits atrocities that meets international standards like the ones in the Rome Statute, or genocide, or crimes against humanity, or crimes of aggression, or war crimes, he's not immune. And fortunately, Kenya being a signatory to the ICC statute, it's a high time that we begin to invite the prosecutor to open investigations into the situation existing in the Republic of Kenya. We have seen the IPOA attempting to investigate. The DPP has declined to take in that evidence on very flimsy reasons, that it cannot see the complainants, that the investigations are not conclusive. But the question is, how do you expect police to investigate themselves when they are the perpetrators of these atrocities? Last week, Mount Kenya jurist, to which I head as their chairman, did write to the United Nations Special Office, inviting them to come and open investigations, or to send a UN rapporteur to come and observe the situations unfolding in the Republic of Kenya. In my view, if you try to look at what is happening and juxtapose the same to the provisions of the Rome Statute, you would not fail to get somebody who is culpable and responsible for it. It is not true that we can lose life in the manner in which we are losing life, and nobody is held to account. It is not possible in a civilized nation like this one of ours, and living in a committee of nations, that atrocities can be committed and the world shuts its eyes. It's on that reason Martin Luther King then was saying that he was not surprised by the noise that was being made by their enemies, but the silence of their friends. And the silence of our friends is the one that is making us making us amazed, very baffled, that Kenyans are being collected on dustbins, they are being collected on dump sites, 50 bodies are lying in the morgue, and there's nobody to be held to account. We have collected cartridge bullets, bullets of cartridges, having been dispensed by the police officers, and nobody is being held to account. It's a high time that we now seek interventions outside our jurisdiction so that people may understand that you cannot just commit atrocities because you want to have political survival, and then people will just close their eyes. I believe, and the answer to the question is that we are not helpless. And that is why it is important for us on the 8th of Nane Nane to march out and demonstrate our solidarity against the impunity. I am saying that Nane Nane is a march to freedom, to free ourselves from Zachaios impunity, is a march to freedom to free ourselves from an accountability of this government. It's a march to freedom to free ourselves from the incompetence and the ineptness of this regime. And I am saying those people who may not be willing to march for themselves, at least come out and march for that one child, one newborn baby who has not today been vaccinated because of lack of the BCG vaccination. Come and march out on the Nane Nane, not because of yourself, but because of that cancer patient who cannot receive treatment because NHIF has collapsed. Come out on Nane Nane. If you're not marching for yourself, come out and march for that one person, that pregnant woman who cannot access Linda Mama and therefore her life is at stake.
So
Finally, come
to
and march
that,
out.
okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. You're about to
Finally,
say finally. Go ahead.
I'm just landing. Finally, come out on Nane Nane and march for your grandfather, grandmother who is 80 years old and he has no support system from government. So we have to redeem ourselves from the situation we find ourselves in. We have to reclaim our country. We have then to go ahead and rebuild our country. Thank you very much. We are not helpless because power belongs to the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Wakili Ndegwa. I know, I know Eli is always telling me that that I have to sometimes be a bit kind to our guests. But Wakili Ndegwa, are you going to be one of those people marching on Nane Nane? Because we keep hearing, people that are well known that have a high profile, calling on protesters to show up. We are not seeing many of you. Will you be out there marching?
I undertake and commit that on Nane Nane, I, Ndegwanjiru, shall be on the streets marching for freedom. Freedom for myself, freedom for my country, and freedom for my children. I commit and pledge to be on the streets.
Sawa, sawa. We'll hold you to it. I'll be looking for you. Dr. Mobi?
Thank you so much. I really just wanted to even use this to make my closing remarks because I can see time has gone. But I love the way Wakili has brought our attention back to Nane Nane, which is a very auspicious date. People don't seem to be very spiritual on this platform, but it is a very spiritual and auspicious day. And it is almost like the final push. And what Kenyans are saying is that for the ones who, because there's a lot who are traveling from Mombasa, others are traveling from all parts of the country that I am aware of, from Nyanyuki, from Isiolo, and they're saying basically this one won't end. There's no going home until the objectives have been reached. And so Nane Nane is really the final push. And the one appeal I have is to the Gen X, the Gen Y, who keep putting fear in this thing and who keep talking like we have a lot of time to go. If you're spiritually inclined and you've understood how Kenya has trended almost for a month and a half, how Ruto must go trended at number 1 and number 2 globally, how we're dominating on the X space, then, and you understand how energy works, then you'll understand this thing is already done on certain levels spiritually, and we're literally waiting for it to land physically. I'm really happy with today's conversation, especially the 5 points that were given by Kenny. I think that's the first clearest direction I've heard of what would happen if Gen Z was to actually get the government, the executive to do something. And the 5 points he had, I'm even going to make a TikTok on that, because the replacing the executive, canceling the odious debt, recovering all the funds. But for those who, I would just say, if you're not going to be part of Nane Nane, please don't dampen the movement, because it really is now or never. And we've seen what the political class can do when they regroup, and the regrouping that will happen if we now dilute the movement again, will really harm us. And this thing is not over until the voice of God says it's over. And as Eric Omondi always reminds us, the voice of God is the voice of the people. Thank you.
Indeed, the voice of God is the voice of the people. Tony, go ahead. Let's just check. Eli, can we hear you now? We couldn't hear Eli's on Mizani. Oh, okay, so Eli cannot speak to us. He hears us, but he can't speak. Go ahead, Tony.
No, maybe this could even also be my parting comments, so that as you go back to the people, we don't have to come round to the main speakers. I want to guide the listeners, and some of whom may be younger, but also those who may not have looked at history in a keen way. The Magna Carta is the oldest origin of democracy, and that was in 2012. And it was followed later by the American Declaration of Independence in 1776, and later by the French Revolution in 1789. And still up to this day, and I'm talking to Dr. Mombi and many others who have spoken very harshly to some in the political class, that even now, those democracies, as old as they are imperfect. And they continue to challenge themselves. If you go to the US in the last election, Donald Trump was leading an insurgency attacking the US Capitol. And even today, it's still in US courts. In terms of the France, riots in the streets of France are often, including protests, including violent protests are continue in France, despite the fact that it's one of the world's oldest democracies from 1789, and the US 1776. Over Martin Luther King was to say, even 200 years at the time he was speaking, the Negro still is not free. So what I want to tell Kenyans is that, particularly the Gen Z, yes, you have come out and you have done something to be proud of, and every generation of Kenyans will remember the 25th of July, when these marches began, as a historical and important time. But when you're fighting someone like Zakayo, you need all hands on deck. You need to be able to negotiate a coalition that can be able to defeat Zakayo, not even in elections, even on the streets. You need to have, as lawyer Njiru is saying, he'll be on the streets. You need to have your mothers on the streets, and if your grandfathers can go on the streets, then they can also join you. This fight of Zakayo has reached a point where every Kenyan must put hands on deck, and we must avoid chest thumping when you are in a revolution, because revolutions are for everyone who wishes well for the country. And I agree, it is very important to make sure that the political class gives space and are able to understand, not because they are being asked, but because it is the right thing to do, to give way. But also, it can also lose momentum, and it can lose purpose, the revolution, if Zakayo is allowed to operate in a political environment without political answers or political challenges. And I think that there is a vacuum that is becoming more and more glaring in Kenya, that there is no political activity to counter what Ruto is doing politically. marches or demonstrations on their own are marches and demonstrations, but they are not necessarily answering the critical political questions which are required to actually address what Zakayo is doing. I raise this because in the Constitution under Chapter 4, Kenya is a multi-party democracy, and one of the reasons we fought for the expansion of Section 2A was to create a competitive political environment so that the opposition is opposing the government for a better government. And now that Ruto has got into the business of buying opposition parties and buying opposition MPs, the Gen Z-led revolution is filling the shoes of opposition. And they need to utilize the few who are left in the opposition benches so that they have a voice in parliament, they have a voice in the MCA, they have a voice wherever they are good people. Those voices can only help in creating a resistance that can be able to lay a blow on Zakayo. So I'm asking, as we are looking for Nane Nane, we remember how Sabasaba happened. Sabasaba was an amalgamation of so many interests, but people came in their individual capacity. Reverend Timothy Joya was there and played a critical role, but he didn't come as a church, he came as Joya. And there were many who played their role in that movement that became a national iconic movement that brought the second liberation of Kenya. And therefore, I'm calling upon Nane Nane to allow or to become a magnet that brings all Kenyans who are willing to stand against Zakayo, to feel welcome and to be able to participate with their children, to be able to participate with the Gen Z, all of them in a carnival which can be able to become a catalyst like we saw in Venezuela or elsewhere when all the people of Kenya are united. I would like to land there, and I would like to end by, thanking my brother Eugene for braving. It's difficult to come out here as a politician, but asante kwa kuja. I also want to thank the host and everybody because I will not be speaking again. And I also want to thank the girls, Dr. Mumbi and Moikali, and all of the other contributors who have made this space so interesting. And good night.
Asante sana, Tony. Let's hear from Anthony. You've been waiting for a while. And guys, just be patient. I'm having tech issues. We lost our co-host. He couldn't hear and he couldn't unmic. But go ahead. So just bear with me. I'm literally trying to add everybody who's requesting as we circulate. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brief Scoop. Thank you, Mizani. Actually, I was to join the space when I got your invite, but I was on another space convincing the Gen Zs on what Tony Gashoka has very well put. And they asked me one question. So, Tony, why are you advocating for a political formation? And my answer was very simple to them. When the slaves who used to pick cotton understood that the only way to freedom was to be part of the people who write the laws, that's when they became free. Because they understood it's only by enacting laws and legislation that they shall gain true freedom. They could not fight the oppressor or demonstrate all through. I'm not against the demonstration. No, not at all. I'm for them. But as Tony has put it, if today on Nane Nane we go and William Samoei Ruto says, I've heard your cries and I'm out, we shall have fought the battle, but we cannot enjoy the spoils. Why? Because within 90 days, the Gen Z movement will not have formed a political party, will not have done the grassroots. And that is why on every space I get, I tell them a good war is fought on all fronts, by air, by sea, and by land. We cannot fight this battle that we are in today of a better Kenya, the Kenya that Wakili Ndegwa is talking about, the dreams that David has very well talked about here. We cannot fight for that Kenya and expect this government to deliver it. We must bring ourselves to terms that maybe they don't know how to, and we are the only ones who can deliver that Kenya to ourselves. That is why I do not waste my time on lecturing the President William Ruto. Maybe he does not understand the Kenya I want because he cannot formulate it in his head. But since I understand the Kenya I want, to everyone on this space, I believe that we, the Gen Zs and the millennials and the Gen Xs, can form a government for the people, by the people, and we can fully implement this constitution that we so very well gave ourselves, we cannot spend all our days pointing fingers and not saying that we can. When you talk to, as I finish, when you talk to the Gen Zs, they say if you prop a leader, he'll be bribed, he'll be bought off. Why do we not believe in ourselves that we can have a leader who stands for the ideals and the principles that we're in the streets for? So we believe so much that we are fighting on the streets, but we don't believe we can lead ourselves. Martin Luther King died at the age of 32 years. He had won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was on the way to Congress. Barack Obama became president at 45 years and 5 months. I Googled it. So the Kenya we want can be led by us. Today, if you look at the National Assembly, the Assembly of the UK, members of parliament are as young as 26. That is what we need to be telling these Gen Zs, that they can fight for a country, but they can equally govern that country. Governance does not come with age. It comes with a set of ideals and beliefs that you can govern a people without stealing from them, that you can build a hospital without taking a kickback, that you can build a road in your constituency without asking for a kickback, because we understand that service to the people is service to God. And lastly, to finish, for the first time in the history of this country, we have a movement that is tribeless by every meaning of that word. We don't look at our tribes, but we look at the Kenya we want. So as we encourage and give ourselves hope, as we go to Nane Nane, let us also ignite the faith that we can lead this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Anthony. I hope, Mizani, we can hear you this time. I actually got kicked out of the space and I managed to get back somehow. Mizani.
I don't know. I almost asked, are we having problems because KOT is here? Because this guy has been ruffling the wrong people all the time. I hope you know the problem and we are not part of your problem. But thank you for joining the call. You guys, if you can hear me, I apologize to all the speakers. We were struggling to maintain the space, but hopefully we are back on. I have heard with a lot of passion that Anthony is asking us for what next, and talking about even if we were to say Zakayo Ameshuka, 90 days will not constitute a political party. So the question therefore is, how do we get there? It's okay to mention all the things we're mentioning, but how do we get there? It's equally important. I want to give Anna an opportunity. Anna, if you can hear us, we are discussing the Kenya we want. What next for this country moving forward? Anna, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Brief scope for Mizani, everybody who contributed. Guys, you'll bear with me. Let me start with the last words. Let me pick up from where Anthony left. Anthony said we need to believe in somebody and believe that that person can do what we want, or he can put to action what the vision that we have. So I have one problem with that. My problem is, why do I need to believe in anybody or disbelieve in anybody? For me, what I want to see is a system that would make everybody do what is right. Because asking me to put my faith in somebody, in a person, in today's world, it's realistically speaking, I do not believe in people. I believe in systems. So saying that we need to believe in somebody, we need to believe in, no. For me, I need to believe in a system that is going to deliver for the many and not the few. And I'm always using that line. But coming back to my thoughts, to be honest, Brief Scope, Mizani, and all Kenyans in the space, what is the next? For me, it's very simple. We can actually focus on the cosmetics of the matter, or we can focus on using this fancy words and throwing things. I'm not a somebody who on the financial, I think Brief Scoop is better suited in that field. I'm not somebody who is from the farming community, but the little knowledge that I have tells me that things are not working. It's not about individual. It could start as with an individual that is rooted to go and is all entourage. But bottom line is, Mizani, I cannot get past that. I want us to fix the system. What is wrong with this system? Change the tap if we need to change that tap that is leaking. So I do not have to say, oh, I need to put a bucket or I need to put a band-aid on this leaking tap so it stops leaking. Oh, it's not leaking as much, now it's dribbling, so I think we can withhold that. For me, fundamentally, that's what it is. But if I can come back and request everybody for one thing, everybody specializes in one thing. Beginning of this revolution, there were a group of people who volunteered to actually write in a layman's language what it meant, what that bill meant, what it said, and how it would affect each and every one of us down to the last person. So what I would want is those groups to be still working, whether you're on the farming section, whether you're on the finance section, whether you're on whatever section you're in, expertise. What I would love to see is actually these people looking at this, whatever is there fundamentally now, and saying this is how we need to change this sector in order for us to achieve A, B, C, D. And I think we've a little bit lost focus on that section. For me, there is one thing that really, it boils down to one thing. Everybody it might vary on, you might live on a mansion or you might live on nyumba ya makuti, but at the end of the day, everybody is struggling for fundamentally basic need. That is for you to get shelter, food, and for the kids to get education and health. Now, if you look at those sectors, we need to dismantle those sectors. We need people to write reports. I'll land. Bear with me. I've been put on mute for weeks. We need to focus on those main sectors, and people write
Nasikia watu
reports.
wanasema they have
Looking,
been put on hold for weeks, na mimi ninaingianga tu hivyo nikiwa nimepewa mic.
No, Missy Zonge for weeks I've been having problem with my line. Not that anybody is refusing me the mic, Pole. So we need to focus on those. Somebody like Mkenya is in the technology sector. He needs to see how that can be improved to have, transparency on the system within our government, how we can improve to go on a portal where we can see how much is this senator getting, how much is this MP getting, how much is that county getting, how much they're spending, where they're getting the expenditure, what are they applying for, and etc. etc. I will land with this, Mizani Polisana. I will land with this. There is one thing that really worries me, and we've been doing, I don't know if Briscoe, Mizani, remember, we've been doing this about farming sector. And fundamentally, a nation that cannot provide 90% of its food, that food that comes to your dinner table, look at it and see how much of it you have produced. If 70% and above you've not produced it, then we have a problem. A nation that cannot feed its people is a failed nation. We have to go back and empower those modern farming. We have to go back and say we need to be able to store our seeds, not to be told that you cannot exchange seeds. We don't want to wait for seeds coming from California, America, and now they control your food. You're doing the farming, but you don't have the seeds. So who controls you? That's all. I'll land there for now. Thank you.
You know, Anna, if I was a singer, I would have said, Baba ni mzalendo, mimi ni mkulima. I don't know how those lyrics go by, but thank you for making that issue of the seed and how our food on the table, where it comes from. Now, I know, gentlemen, ladies, we really have a long queue waiting. Ivy, Sonia, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
You're loud and clear. Proceed.
Okay. So the Kenya I want a Kenya where the law actually works, where basic needs are prioritized. Hakuna venye we can be talking about climate change, technology. Yes, I understand these things are important, but there are people who are hungry. There are places where we don't have electricity. places that don't have water. As I saw like the story of Burkina Faso wakati the ambassador wa US ama ni UK alienda kwambia, oh guys, we have a plan, we're gonna build schools for you and clinics, and the prime minister told them, no thank you, but our priority is security. We need to ensure our people survive first. As a country, we have to have a priority. See, mara leo ni Wi-Fi, kesho ni barabara. It doesn't work like that. I want a country where we fully enter into industrialization, you know? I think tulitoka Stone Age, tukaruka tech space. And when my mom usually tells me of how life was kitambo, where kulikuanga na like a company that was manufacturing insecticides and farmers pyrethrum. Farmers walikuwa wanapanda pyrethrum and they will take to this company, you know. Kulikuwa na milk collection points za wakulima, maziwa inaenda KICC, you know, Mountex. But sahi, all these industries, I think it's deliberate. These industries zinaangushwa deliberately. And people, where are people gonna get employment if we don't improve our industries? Tunaona Mumias every time inaangushwa. That investor Rai alifukuzwa. I don't know how that sugar company functions. So and also I know somebody in the UK and maybe people who are abroad can confirm. Aliniambia our government works. Our government works because wanajua if they don't, people are gonna die. Uko majuu, they have winter. And if the government doesn't work, na uko crops don't grow during winter, the government has to ensure these people have food. The government has to ensure these people have electricity. Because without these heaters, the government is gonna die. Imagine if we had winter as Africans, tungekuwa tumeisha because of this system we have. So my question also is about the police, this police force. What are we gonna do about them? Because Nane Nane lazima tutoke. Nane Nane lazima tutoke. And I support the political party, not like a political party, but a liberation party, where everybody works together for a greater good. And kwa this X up, we can see people wamejitolea. We can see Nelson with the JKIA story. And by the way, the president Ruto announced that 47 parastatals are gonna be privatized. I don't know if you guys can remember that speech. And then we see JKIA story, and he didn't mention, and the 47 is such a specific number, right? 47 is such, so like you have to know which companies you're gonna privatize. And then we saw Badai JKIA story, and then today so 6 other companies have been listed in NSC. I'm winding up. I saw a certain YouTube video this weekend by Willis Otieno and Lynn Ngugi akisema these processes, these things that are happening in Kenya, including the IMF loans, they are all illegal and we can declare them unconstitutional, and all these processes, easy companies zote zinafanya privatization, because the parliament, the people have to approve all these loans that have been taken, both domestic and international. The people have to approve. It's the law, the privatization of these companies, the people have to approve. So I honestly want to call the lawyers to just fight for us, for people who don't really know the law quite well, and may inform us. Anyway, you guys have a good night, and I enjoy this space. Yeah.
Asante sana, Ivy. I love your submissions. Mizani, I'm restraining myself because we have Wakili Ndegwa in here, and there's a hell of a lot there's a hell of a lot of blame to go around. The politicians have mostly we don't have them on the space anymore, but there's a lot of blame to go around, including professions such as lawyers, the economists in Kenya, the libertarian economists, right-wing economists, who've essentially been shilling for American corporations. And I see chief economist here, so I'll be putting you on the spot. But Mizani, you have your hand up, so go ahead and then call on the other people if you've been paying attention. If you haven't,
Yeah,
I
today I'm being
can.
the bad cop on the space. I really want to move the queue, and I see hundreds of requests, but we might not really get to each and every one of you. So kindly pardon us. I want to call the next speaker to come and speak to us. If you can maximize on 3 minutes, we'll appreciate. Chief Economist, you've been waiting.
Thank you, Mizani, and thank you, Brief Scoop, for the space. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I know we are in different time zones. So my submission is a very humble one, and I wish maybe to start on something that one of the panelists said about leaders in Gen Z, and I personally think that that is a bit misplaced, because what we are pushing for is not for political positions. We are pushing for change in ideology. We need our leaders to change ideology, and it does not mean that Gen Z, we have to lead from all the way from president all the way to the chief level to make sure that things work. We need things to work with each and every individual that goes to any seat or pursues any servant position. Moving ahead, the Kenya we want. I personally believe that our economy is basically our pain point, and we have really talked a lot about mismanagement of funds. We have talked a lot about corruption, and we have also talked about debt. And actually, this whole movement came out of the pains about the finance bill. And today, as you've seen, the illegitimacy of this government, the finance bill for last year was brought down by the court. So we currently don't have any finance bill ongoing. So we really need to check our source of growth as a country. And I personally believe this is what this government is not looking at. What really makes our economy to grow? Because most of the things that this government is concentrating on are basically sideshows or symptoms. So we really need to check on, first of all, corruption. Secondly, we need to check on this SME industry. And this government came in with the idea that it is going to upgrade mama mbogas, upgrade boda boda people. But basically, this is not what we are seeing. We are seeing a completely different thing. And in terms of even the financing that is coming in from World Bank and the Eurobonds, this financing is not being used to finance projects that will basically uplift the people. And if you remember, back in 2017, 2018,
Economist,
we had...
you understand, as a chief economist, 3 minutes mean that.
How far am I?
You are way overboard. I was hoping you'd get into it, but you took us to history class.
Let me just land. You remember the miracle, the economic miracle of Ghana? And this economic miracle was basically out of the oil industry that was growing, and even the cocoa industry. But these people went ahead and picked a lot of loans that led them to defaulting in 2023. And this is actually where our country is right now. But what Ghana did, it did not continue paying the debts. It recalled the debts and requested for restructure. So these are the things that this government needs to see. And moving forward, we really need to check on how is the debt being used, which projects is the debt financing, because we'll end up in the same position that Ghana currently is in. A country that was growing, but its dreams have been shattered by the debt that they took back in 2023. So, Nane Nane, we are moving forward, and we need to liberate this nation. We are not looking for seats. We are looking for a change in ideology. Thank you, Mizani.
But Buana, Chief Economist, I have a couple of questions for you because I have a number of theories. One is that our government does not have enough of a tax base to tax from. And that is partly, in very huge part, the fact that we don't have living wages. So the wages that people have simply can't even support themselves, let alone support a treasury with income taxes. And secondly, we don't control our commodity prices. What is your, because Western libertarian vulture capitalist economics, as it is taught, tells us that we cannot increase labor costs because it's too heavy of a burden. But in fact, that's how the West grew when the labor movement succeeded in having living wages. What say you? Chief Economist, you're muted.
Yes. You've raised a very, very important question. And I can tell you that basically our main issue is even the consumption of the nation. Majority of the consumption is basically the government takes a very, very huge part of this economy. And if we really need to move forward, we need to liberate consumption. For example, if you check in terms of now spending, our government really spends a lot of money. Now, the issue is this money is not basically being spent on the right projects. Because if you spend this money on the right projects, this money will basically sort of create income avenues. For example, the government took a lot of loans, majorly from the World Bank, and they financed projects in the Moya irrigation scheme. But the projects they financed were not basically, they didn't give avenues for growth of income. They financed fighting birds, you see? And if you are looking at, for example, the Moya irrigation, you need to look at the main issues of the seasonality of the rivers. Now, something else, if you check government appropriation in aid, come to something like e-citizen. E-citizen earns a mere 300 million per financial year. So this means that e-citizen is being plagued with a lot of corruption and a lot of mismanagement. So these are all avenues that we need to check if we need to grow this economy. And the government cannot
You know
be a
what, Chief
major.
Economist? I thought that you might have a short answer for me, but I think what you're highlighting is that we really just need to do a space. So let's do a space specifically on economic questions, and we'll have you as a panelist because I have so many questions, and I think we should do the same, Bwana Ndegwa, on legal questions. Mizani, go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you short, Chief Economist. I just don't think we have time to cover it as we are trying to close.
I
All right.
think if I had the economist as my advice, I'll be very happy. He'll have a lot of money. He knows how to spend it. Thank you, economist, for that. Time is money, and we do appreciate you coming on board. Ndegwa, before you leave, I know you have to represent some clients maybe tomorrow. Do you have any specifics on the Nane Nane conversation? Because Kenyans have said everything they can on these spaces. From the legal perspective, ndio Zakayo atashuka, ndio ataenda, hopefully. But then what, Ndegwa?
First of all, what we must all agree on is that we're in a struggle, and you've all committed to the struggle until at such a time when we shall hold the mark of victory. At the moment, we'll just have to let things flow within the four corners of the Constitution. We are hoping that on Nane Nane we'll be able to apply pressure until Zakayo resigns. But when he resigns, he must also resign together with his Gashagwa. We do not want to have a situation whereby we are jumping from the fire from the flying pan to the fire. So a call must be placed that the entire presidency that we want home. If he does resign, then the constitutional timelines will begin to run. That is the 60 days where Papa wa Roma will hold brief for presidency, subsequent to which an election will have to ensue. But he may not also, he may decline to resign. The other legal avenue that is now currently pending before court, and we are in court today, is the constitutional petition that is asking the High Court to declare that a president can be removed through a referendum. It's a very interesting petition because the issues we are raising in court is that in the event where parliament fails and negates in its duties to represent the people, in the event where parliament fails to abide by the sovereignty of the people, are people so hopeless that they have no alternative? We are asking the High Court to declare that other than the constitutional tool of elections, a tool of referendum can be a constitutional means through which a change of government can be effected. We have very many interested people who are coming on board, and we are keeping on inviting people and advising them to come on board from all corners and all angles, from professional bodies to amicus curiae, and any person who has who has an idea, because the more the merrier. We have pro bono legal services being offered. We have lawyers if professional groups want to join in the suit. We have pro bono lawyers who want to represent any person who may be willing to join, so that at least we may give some impetus into the push that is happening on the streets. So that as we push from the streets, we are also pushing from court so that we can have these declarations. I heard Zakayo mention about that particular petition. It tells you that he's not taking it lightly. We are yet to see his response because we have cited him in person. We have equally cited Mr. Gashagwa in person. We are yet to see their response. They haven't responded to that particular petition. But we are using all those particular tools. In the event that particular tool also fails, we must not also forget that we are not desperate, that come 8th of August 2027, again an opportunity will be offered to Kenyans through which they will be granted an opportunity to determine the course in which they want to be governed. But we have a very serious legal handle there, that the majority of the people who are potential voters at the moment have no IDs. And then we are saying that we should also have a clamor. It's either you give us the IDs or we shall also have no elections. Because we cannot walk ourselves into the gallows, whereby we are just following, just like a sheep following the butcher to the abattoir. We are insisting that IDs must be provided, failure to which will also have no elections. Elections have to abort until IDs are afforded to any person who is above the age of majority to have the ability and the capacity to vote. So Zakayo must be told in uncertain terms that it is not a favor that we are seeking from him to give IDs to Kenyans. It's a right that is guaranteed to them under Article 11 of the Constitution that speaks about the rights and the duties of a citizen. Thank you very much, host. I'm greatly humbled for the opportunity you've given me to interact with various participants. I'm greatly humbled, and I wish to rest my case at that. And good night.
Thank you very much, Wakili Ndegwa. And I must say, I have seen you do a lot of good job, but the most memorable one was when you were appealing during the presidential, would I say, conversation about who won or did not win. And for that,
Yes,
we give you your flowers.
thank you very much.
However, and that you might mute your mic if you don't mind. What I find disturbing is Kenyans want to become voters, and that is the Gen Zs who haven't registered yet. You also want ID cards. On the other day, you refused. You even told the courts hatutaki hiyo vitu ya maisha card. Kioti, what is your problem? Go ahead.
Oh, I have no problem, but of course, I wanted to say something. Yeah, so guys, personally, I haven't mastered the Queen's language, but I try to communicate in the Queen's language for the sake of those guys in diaspora. So personally, I wanted to get this mic when Eugene Wamalo was here. Eugene Wamalo comes from Transoya. Yeah, he was born in Kimilili constituency in socio ward. So I wanted to inject a poisonous pen in him because he's also a politician, and he has been here trying to juggle around with the questions. But personally, I felt like all these politicians are liars. Yeah, as you can see today, Zakayo said that he distributed the Wi-Fi across across the country, and it is free. So I wanted to question Eugene if in Transoya they have free Wi-Fi, and also try to reach out to people from Shinyalu in Kakamega County to question them if they have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, of course. But you all know the answer. Even some parts of Nairobi, they don't have Wi-Fi. If I'm lying to you, go and do a research in Kibra constituency. You'll bring us the answers here. So these the political class, they're all liars. They come here with kindly. They come here with a sweet tongue. They try to talk to us. So I wanted to tell Eugene that if indeed he's in for this movement, then on 8th, next month, yeah, the next month begins in the next few minutes. Those who are in Kenya, I wanted him to come on the streets, yeah, with Akina Martha, Akina Kalonzo, because now we are Gen Zote, we are not only Gen Z, meaning even them who are the Gen X are also invited in this, because we are all in this as the nation, yeah. And of course, I wanted to question him that if he was given a position as the cabinet secretary, let me say the mining position where Joho, who has no certificate even for Form 4, was given, would he deny that position? I wanted to ask him that question. But anyway, guys, when you are here, I want you all to come out in large numbers on 8th, yeah? I've been trying to mobilize people across the counties that I know from Bungoma County. I was in Mombasa the other day. I tried to meet some few individuals, and of course I'm going to sort them out so that before 8th they should be in Nairobi. So guys, whenever you are here, even the NIS were here, we are asking you to come out in large numbers on 8th, yeah, so that we can march in unity and redeem this country, because we are living as the refugees in our own country. Yeah, the political class. You can imagine how many politicians are we having in this country? How many leaders are we having in this country? The minimum pay they are receiving is about 400,000. That's for MCA, because they still a lot apart from what they are receiving as the salary. So just do a calculation and see how much are we paying them in a month. It's even more than a trillion, because we have so many shadow workers in those ministries. We have many shadow workers in the counties. I just can't explain. So guys, I feel like on 8th, regardless of your gender, regardless of your religion, regardless of your color, let us turn out in large numbers, yeah? Because we have been talking about the minerals, we have been talking about the bad leadership, we have been talking about all those things that we feel like they are oppressive to us. But now, the only thing we need to do is to march on 8th. So guys, all those speakers, all those listeners, the host, kindly, on 8th, I feel like we should have no space. We should have nothing going on but march in Nairobi CBD. So, up to you, Mizani. I saw you are dropping. You are feeling, of course. So this was what I wanted to try to see how I can communicate.
Tumekupoteza at the end. KOT Sonko wamekupata ni kama
Brief scope.
Huyo KOT atolewe hapa, amefanya sina, I cannot control the space. KOT, go create a pseudo account. You are a person and an enemy of the state. But anyway, I hope you guys can hear me because I lost KOT at one point. And I think the questions he's raising are very, very serious questions. As we move forward, we cannot ignore them. I know, Tribeless, you've been waiting to speak, but allow me to bring in Dr. Milton. He's been equally trying to connect to the call for such a long time. Dr. Milton, if you can hear us, good evening to you. Good afternoon. I hope you're doing well. You successfully decided to fight for Kenya and made sure somebody called Nick Mwendwa will not be close to FKF. But that is not part of the conversation tonight. However, where do you want us to go next as a country? Dr. Milton.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to address, and I take it with a lot of humility and magnanimity, the recognition of the efforts that we are putting in to ensure that we enhance accountability in the public institutions and those in whose hands public authorities entrusted are acting in accordance to the expectations of the rule of law. Having said that, I want to thank everybody that is taking their time to be on, burning the midnight oil, and all this in the name of ensuring that our country gets the governance that it deserves. And I also want to pay tribute to our fallen heroes, the comrades that paid the ultimate price on June 25th and since the revolution began, and who we must continue to remember and say their names because they have etched themselves in the history of our struggle for liberation and freedom. I know it is a straight question about where do we want to see the country move to, and it is very simple. For me, the dreams and aspirations of this movement is to see a country where, in the words of famous people who have gone before us, a country where there is equity, there is equality, there is freedom and fairness, all guaranteed in letter and in spirit. So, what does that mean? It means that we must be able to rise up against a people whose privilege to serve is now mistaken for an opportunity to rule over a people. And that is what the administration of William Ruto has tried to do. And I am eternally grateful that the Gen Zs finally led the way, and the rest of us who have been tolerant to this are now following. So, William Ruto was never ready to govern, and today it has been confirmed that we are now back to Uhuru's last budget in 2021-22, because William Ruto's first budget has been unconstitutional. It has been so declared. It has been confirmed by the Court of Appeal. That confirms what we said immediately he was sworn in. What we need to do is to see comrades being steadfast and continuing in this fight and making sure that Nane Nane succeeds. Upon the success of Nane Nane and William Ruto and his cartels vacating office, I want to believe, and I say what I said earlier on, that leaders and leadership will emerge. Leadership is about focus, is about vision, is about inspiring a people to believe in that vision and to work towards it. Now, the reason we must continue to be leaderless in quote is because the cartels are looking for our leaders, and by our I'm referring to Gen Zs and millennials, so that they can look for those people and compromise them, And when they realize they cannot compromise them, they will then blackmail them and intimidate them and thereby break the movement. So we must continue to do this the way we are doing it. And as we do it, we also need to have strategic ideas. And I know there is no poverty of that. Wakili Ndegwa and many others in this platform will tell you that people are not sleeping, people are always thinking about what next. The what next is clear. Leadership will emerge. We will continue to fight for justice in the courts because that is our recourse and that is what will keep Zakayo and his cartel of criminals busy. And as we fight in the rule for the rule of the law through the courts of justice, we also want to make sure that our people are coming out on Nane Nane to send William Ruto home. I want to also mobilize the diaspora. I know there are many people from the diaspora who are also been asking, and many of those who are back home in Kenya are asking, what are diaspora people doing? We've seen protests in Washington, D.C., we've seen in London, we saw in Dublin, and people in diaspora are also doing their part. But I want to introduce a new concept to this process by the people in diaspora. We have remittances from the diaspora amounting to between 20 and 25 billion shillings a month when you do the conversion at the current dollar rate. That is enormous. That money is going into paying school fees. That money is going into paying for healthcare. That money is going into feeding families. That money is going into supporting payment of rent and the general living expenses of their family members who are back home. Now, that is a significant contribution or injection of liquidity to the economy. I want to call upon the diaspora that next week from Sunday, or this could even start tomorrow until Nane Nane, can we starve William Ruto's government of the money and the remittances they receive from the diaspora? Because that will make him wake up from his slumber. He will realize that it is no child's play. This is about a people who want him and his people to live. If diaspora stop remittances for that 1 week, even that family, and I want to say with a lot of due respect, there are people who depend on their family members in the diaspora. Wakati wanaambiwa toka tufanye maandamano, wanasema they will not come out. Why? Because they don't even know the price of unga. Because wao shopping yao inafanywa from abroad, their school fees is being paid by their brothers and sisters from abroad, who have to suffer and struggle doing 2-3 jobs, sometimes doing odd jobs, not sleeping to send money home. Alafu hao ndio watu, and I say so with a lot of due respect, there are the people who, when the rest are coming out kuandamana, wanakataa, wanasema maandamano is for primitive people. I like what Wakili Ndegwa has said. I like what many people who are considered to be elite have said. They will be out on the street. I want to call upon diasporans. Let us also join. I'm not a diasporan myself, but I'm currently in the US. But I am saying we want to mobilize as many people as we can. Please don't send money home because that money is going to pay taxes. That money is going into the pockets of individuals and cartels by Zakayo. If we do that, I can assure you that Zakayo and his cartel will know that this is very serious and he will vacate. And lastly, there
Maybe,
is
Doctor,
this.
maybe I'll allow you to land at that. We really have a long queue waiting.
Yeah,
So
I'm
if you
landing.
don't
I'm
mind,
landing, and I
30
want to make a
seconds.
very I want to make a very important point that let us not be blackmailed by William Ruto telling people that we don't love Kenya when we say we want him to leave office. That is blackmail. He has desecrated the privilege to serve as the head of state, and he must vacate. He has violated the constitution, and we have to tell him no. If there is anybody who is presiding over anarchy, it is William Ruto for violating the constitution. Not patriots, not comrades who are coming out to attempt, and by so doing, reclaiming their country by running the goons and anarchists and the violators and desecrators of the rule of law and the Kenyan people out of town. They must vacate. Nane Nane has to succeed. And another
Asante,
time, please
asante,
allow us
asante,
to speak
Dr.
about
Milton.
the corruption
Dr.
in football
Milton,
because it's big. But
tafadhali, tafadhali.
I drop the mic.
Asante sana. I know you're passionate. Everyone is. Let us hear from other people. Kamau, you've been waiting for a while, and then I think Tribeless after you, and then Kenya Daima and Dr. AJO.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much for the opportunity. This is Cam Now, and I want to be quick. It goes to the people who have died. My condolences to the family and all of Gen Zs and everybody. I mean, diaspora, I had that call of not sending money. I support that. So my advice is whatever we do, the energy should be geared towards remembering the dead. Because if you don't do that, we're in a lot of trouble. Last year, they killed a lot of people in Nyanza, and that's a trick to make sure we slow down. We're gonna make them scared. We're gonna kill them. We're gonna abduct them. We're gonna make them scared for us. So that's a tactic. Now we have to say no to that. As we do what we do, we should carry placards. We should carry pictures on our social media. We should put pictures of those who have been killed. Memories forever. We should start with JM Karaoke, Tomboya. We should remember them so that we can achieve our goals. If we don't remember them, we're not going to achieve our goals because that's a trick. The trick of the enemy is to kill you, to maim you, to make you silent so that you can die and they don't get your goals. And that's politician. Politicians are fake. They are liars. They take it from people. They take it from us. I'm kind of disappointed. I supported Baba. Baba is an opportunist. He just want to come in and jump wherever it is. So my two last comment is this: the ID, like Ndegwala said, the ID trick is to make you and us not to vote 2027. Is to slow the movement. The IBC formation is gonna take 2 years. I promise you, it's not gonna happen today. It's not gonna take 2 years. It's to slow the movement. The devil is a liar. So my thinking is, as we come together, I say enough is enough of these people are stealing our minerals. Conjunction with the puppet. I used to support Biden, but because Biden supported a puppet in Kenya, I don't support him. I don't support Democrats. I didn't renew my membership because of what they did in Kenya. So my advice, let's focus. And whatever we do, let's think about those people being killed. And also who is gonna be our leader? Because okay, who's gonna take over? We have to think about that. And above all, let's stay focused, guys. Let's focus on registration and demanding. We need an IBC tomorrow. We need an IBC now. And let's go to the chief's offices. Let's demand our IDs. How come our IDs are being delayed? Let's go to these offices and, hey, chiefs, in wherever you are, in Kikuyu, whatever you are, just demand your ID because that's a key to the success. Okay, last point. Who are who are getting IDs? Are the people from Eastern getting more IDs or Udaku area are getting more IDs? You have to pay attention who's getting more IDs so that they can multiply the election or the numbers. Okay, thank you guys. That's it.
Anthony, let's stick to facts. I don't know that, we have to be very careful because divisive tactics are also many. So we have to also resist, question that information. If you've gotten that information that people in Eastern
No, I'm just
province
saying.
or
I'm
Northeastern
just
province
saying.
are
I'm just
getting more
saying.
IDs,
Let me
I'm,
finish.
I'm just saying, find out if it's a factual information, because we have to be very careful not to divide the movement by, you know, when we fall for the tactics. Be very careful because the enemy has resources, and they've been doing this for much longer than we've been protesting and marching. Right? I think you get my point.
Right. Well, okay.
I'm
Maybe
not.
allow me to clarify. What I'm saying is, is Kisumu area getting more ID than whatever area? So I just saying, let's pay attention to those little details. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Right, and that's the point that I'm making, is that we don't know that that is happening. We cannot say that there's more IDs going to Kisumu or Nyanza or any one particular part of the country. So let's be factual, because we cannot fight them with their tactics. We have to fight them with different tactics that include integrity. Kamau, actually, I had called on you, Kamau Amaina, so you missed your chance. So go ahead now, and then we'll go to Tribeless. Kamau?
Yeah, thank you, Brief Scoop and the other guests. I just want to talk about what people are saying about the after we've taken Ruto out of office. What's next? I feel like we don't have a shortage of good leaders in this country. What we have is we have allowed a small group of people to come into to take over the ruling class. Since independence, we've had a small group of people who are intent on just benefiting themselves and not working for the benefit of the people in this country. But I feel like what the Gen Z movement has accomplished, the biggest win that the Gen Z movement has accomplished thus far, is the political and the political awakening, the consciousness among citizens that we are seeing at this stage. You know, like having such a space like this and other barazas where people can meet, you know, talk, a decentralized space where people can talk, even have lawyers and other professionals, because this movement has gone from being just a Gen Z, like an age group thing, but rather an ideology. We are demanding for accountability from our leaders. And we don't want to have like a Gen Z leader or a millennial leader. What we want to have is like whoever is in government, we want them to be accountable. I don't care if it's 50 years, I don't care if it's 40 years, I just want the guy to be accountable and to do what the constitution stipulates. When it comes to choosing leaders, the constitution is very clear. It guides us in chapter 6, leadership and integrity. If we cannot be electing people of who have court cases coming in murder, rape, such people into our government, and then expect them to, when they get there, to do a good job. No, these politicians are not all the same, but they read from the same script. All these people, wherever, even in the US, wherever, they all read from the same script. And we cannot allow these people to hold us to ransom and tell us, oh, you know what, wait for 2027, wait for the election. You guys are killing us. You cannot sign a contract with you and then come and kill me and rob me and then tell me like I have to wait till the end of the contract. No, we can't wait. We are the sovereign. We the people we shall exercise our constitutional right. If we find that these people are not fit, and we know that the legislature has also been captured, parliament has been captured, we cannot allow these people to continue leading us when they are killing us and robbing us. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Asante Kamau. Mizani?
Yeah, sure. I want us to go to the next speaker, and that is Tribeless, I believe. So then we'll have Mukenya. Gentlemen, we are really running late. That was not the intention, but we accept exceptionally. So if you get the mic, go straight to the point on what's next. If not, where you want to see this country going to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brief Scope, Eli Lukenya and Ndegwa. I'm happy you here. You've been here for some time. This is amazing because you help us digest and dissect some issues of legal issues. I have a few points to put across. Number one, what is the Kenya we want? The Kenya we want is the Kenya where the president does not have to go on top of vehicles to elaborate on the achievements he has done. Why do I say this? I am one person who lives in the diaspora, but I'm now back in Kenya because of the Gen Z movement. I am a fan of revolution. I'm very passionate about revolution, and I have been to Kenya. I've been back home since the 22nd of June, and I intend to be here for a little bit more time. So why do I say that the Kenya we want is the Kenya that the president doesn't have to go on top of vehicles? I don't know when last Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak was on top of vehicles touring areas to tell the people what they have done. I have never seen Biden or any other leader behaving like our president. When you see a leader who is always on top of vehicles, trying to force issues on the people, explaining what he has done, just know that leader has failed. He has not done anything. He is doing PR politics. The Kenya we want, brief scope, is a Kenya where the police respects the rule of law, where the police is independent, where the police is not pushed by the executive or politicians to maim and cause mayhem on innocent protesters exercising their democratic right. The Kenya we want is the Kenya where farmers do not get fake fertilizers in the name of fertilizer subsidy. That is the Kenya I want for my children. I don't want my children to live in diaspora forever. I want systems to work back at home. I have been a diaspora person. I want the systems I've seen work in other countries to work in my country. Why can't they work? Some people are sitting and are comfortable, enjoying, while other people are suffering. The Kenya we want, brief scoop, is the Kenya where the president does not appoint corrupt leaders into positions of power. The president knows very well that the former governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, has a case with EACC. He's being accused of 1.3 billion Kenya shillings embezzlement. What does he do? He goes up ahead to appoint him as CS. Shame. Shame on the president. Shame. He knows this man has got a case in court with the EACC. And this is not a disclaimer. I'm referring to EACC's letter this evening, written to Parliament. So that is the Kenya we want. A Kenya where the president does not appoint people with questionable integrity. I've just taken 1.5 minutes. I'm timing myself. The Kenya we want is the Kenya where the president does not impose a fake finance bill, a finance bill that did not follow the rules of Kenya. The High Court today, the Court of Appeal, invalidated that bill. We expect the president to refund back the money he has been deducting from Kenyans in the name of an illegal housing levy. The Kenya we want is the Kenya. He is telling us that we are formless. We are formless. We are rudderless. How did a formless and rudderless organization cause a movement that led to finance bill flop? A whole finance bill of the president, we were able to bring it down. How? A formless organization. And that is why we don't want a leader, because Raila Odinga led the group of last year, which opposed the 2023 finance bill. Did it go through? It went through. Now, a formless organization has shamed the president. And now that the High Court of Appeal has also invalidated the 2023 finance bill, we expect the president to stop causing anarchy. He is the chief architect of anarchy because he does not respect the rule of law. If he respected the rule of law, that bill would have passed. I have 40 seconds, a brief scoop.
No, I think your timer is backward, tribeless. You really must learn.
Okay, I'm finishing up. So that
Kindly
is the Kenya we want.
seconds.
Okay, so what am I saying? That is the Kenya we want. The Kenya where all systems work. And that is why these people from independence, they did away with people like OJM Kariuki. They killed Tom Mboya. They killed leaders who are asking pertinent questions because they did not want systems to work. They wanted things to remain the way they are. There's a song which says, they told us things will be better. They told us things will be better. That is what Ruto promised. And as I conclude, freedom must be demanded from the oppressor. And that is what we are demanding. And if demanding freedom is anarchy, then Mr. President is the chief architect of anarchy. Thank you.
Wow. Tribeless. I think brief
Right,
scope.
Mr. Mitchell.
Brief scope.
Huh?
Part of the problem we're trying to solve as a country is politicians taking the mic and saying everything. And Tribeless did exactly that, but thank you. We will be protesting against that in the next session. Mkenya Daima, welcome to the talk.
And he timed himself, so you couldn't even argue with him.
No, he was having an imaginary timer. I can tell you for free. But that was well played, Tribeless. Thank you for coming. Mkenya, the mic is yours. Let's
Yes,
see
yes.
if 3 minutes works. It's 48 past the hour.
Okay, amazing. I came a little bit structured today because I have a tendency
I don't
of
hear him, do
speaking.
you?
Yeah, Mkenya is
You
there.
guys,
Mkenya can hear you. I don't know if Brief Scoop is having his visit, but I think Mkenya and KOT, whatever you guys did, you know you are one of the reasons we are suffering, right? But it's all right.
okay, okay. This is what I want to say, and I want to be very loud and be very clear. We don't need political parties to fix systems. We don't need that, and we are not going to need it. The other thing that I want you guys to understand, as much as we are Gen Zs and we are fighting for the same thing, I want you to understand we might have different ideologies in terms of things like how we want, in terms of different interests, while we are pushing for the same Kenya that is working. Political parties are formed based on ideologies, lobby groups to push for this and this and this and that. But right now, we have only one focus, which is to fix Kenya. Anyone who is asking what next? What next? Why are you worried about what next? The question has already answered itself. We are fixing the systems. If the systems are working, that is the Kenya that we want. That is the next that we want. We want the cost. We want to fix the energy. We want to fix the food. We want to fix the manufacturing. We want to fix the water. I am from Seikuru. Since 1963, Seikuru has never seen water like this. As we are talking right now, I know I have to wake up sometime there, walk for 12 kilometers, go to a river called Nzetu here in Seikuru, go and queue so that I can get a little bit of water in a jerrycan from well. And this water doesn't have to be clean, but I just need a water that I can drink. Those are the systems that we want to fix. And the anyone who is asking what next, the moment we have William Ruto out, who is the problem, the what next question will solve itself, because we are not struggling to get a new president. We are not struggling with getting, I don't know, the governor. No, those are not the problems that Kenyans are having. And since we said Gen Z is generation Zote, all the generations in Kenya right now, they are suffering. And their what next question is fixing this country, making sure this country has systems that are working. That is our biggest concern. We have no problem of leaders. Everyone is most of the Kenyans are leaders. Kenyans are competent. Kenyans have all the right skills and everything. What we want is those systems to be working. That is our biggest concern right now as Kenyans. So this idea of trying, and I think it's stop putting doubt, stop putting this idea of like, okay, there is like a power vacuum that might happen and Kenya does not understand where we are going. No, we are not like Sudan. Look at our literacy levels. Do we look like people who don't understand what we are doing? No, we are people who understand what we are doing. We are fixing the country to have systems that are working. That's all I came to remind everyone. The what next question is a Kenya that is working, and that is what we are doing right now. Let's focus on removing William Ruto on Nane Nane. Yes, I will also walk from Sunday. I will be in Nairobi as well. Very, very, very ready for Nane Nane. All the way from Sekuru with all my 3 cousins. We've made some arrangement on where to sleep in Mlolongo to make sure that I will be there on Nane Nane. Thank you.
Mkenya, will you be bringing the cows alongside, because you need something after that?
Okay, it's a sad state of affair. These were my cows in 2016, and too bad because of kiangazi in Ukambani and lack of water, they died. Nilibaki na only 1 cow that has been surviving, and ikona jicho moja blind. Still, it's called Langi. So it's sad. I will not be bringing the cows.
What a memory to actually commemorate them. And I didn't know it was a bad joke, but thank you for sharing that. It reminds us we're still human at the end of the day. I would love to now welcome, that is Nothing KE, and then in that order we'll have Clinton, JM Kariuki, Libon, Thomas, and then let's see how that goes. If you guys can make 3 minutes, that would be great.
Hi everyone. As usual, we salute the ones we have lost along the way, the sick and everyone is affected. As we go on this path, I wanted to highlight we need to look into what we did the last time. We need to look into blood donation and funds for the hospital. And now word is out that we can no longer fundraise through mchanga because they're trying to prevent that level of coordination. And then on privatization of our institution, yesterday Wakili said that one, we can raise a petition. So I wanted to know whether we are supposed to draft it. And I wanted to ask you guys if you can come on board on the issues that we want to prevent. Because what you're seeing in the country is exactly how IMF work. First, they devalue your shilling. We went through that last year. Then the next thing, they insist you privatize the institution. And if you look at the institution they're privatizing are the most profitable. So we need to put an injunction on that, and we need to resist the American military from coming into the country, and we need to ask the British military to exit our country.
Not ask.
This is Kenya.
Not ask. Demand.
So brief scoop, you're saying waende,
Yes.
wamalize waende.
Kaende.
Anyway, go back to
Yes,
nothing, KE. You still have 2 minutes.
Okay, so I was saying we need to ask them to exit our country because we know this military, it's not here for our sake. It's just a strategic position for them to be able to steal our resources, number one. Number two, they're able to, if they want to interfere with Congo, they will fly into Congo without our knowledge. Magufuli said when he was launching the Nyerere Dam that when they were clearing the place, they found runways in the bush, airstrip in the bush that him as a president didn't know actually existed. So these things are not here to help us. We were talking about poaching. They're the same people who interfere with all that. So we need to draw the line and say, well, number one, we don't want them here. Number two, we also need to make sure that Bill Gates is a persona non grata in this country, because that guy rotates around Africa, making sure that he messes us up. He said on CNN that when COVID hit Kibera, they will fall like flies because there's no space for social distancing, and that's the one place that we never had a case. So they identified that our food is the reason why we were able to survive COVID, because I think they look down upon us. So we want to make sure that this man does not step into the country. We want to repeal this issue of agriculture, livestock, and then protect our airport. Like the whole time I was seeing this airport thing, I just went quiet because at the back of my mind I was thinking, let them lease out JKIA. When we can make the decision, we'll make sure we come up with a different airport. But apparently it says that for the next 30 years, we can never build an airport that can compete with JKIA. That tells you these people are securing the bag for themselves for a period of another 30 years. So we need to make sure, apart from just talking, we come up with petitions to stop all that, for them to understand, hey, by the way, we're not as primitive as they thought we were. Because if you go out of the country, they treat you like, you can say how they talk about immigrants, like we are something they can dispose at will, yet here at home, they are so comfortable. So we need to show them they do also. They need to get out and make this country such a pleasant place for people to live in, that people in the diaspora, they don't have to be treated badly like second-class human beings. They know that they have a home they can go to, and it's a beautiful and an amazing place to live. You see the narrative they always sell. It's like we live in the bush. They talk about hunger like we are people who don't know what they want. If they get their hands off our resources, we'll be able to feed ourselves. We'll be able to make sure every Kenyan has decent shelter, access to free healthcare, and we create employment for all of us. Instead, they're using this country as a dumping ground. Most of the time, actually, like 80% of our products in the shelf are products from outside. Why are we allowing this? Kenya should not become a consumer economy, because when you hear the West say
you have
that Kenya
30
is
seconds
open
to
for
land.
business, they're simply saying Kenya is open for plunder. I thank you.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you
So
mentioned
many
something about
hundreds.
80% of the products we are importing, which is strangely enough was featured in the Finance Bill 2024-2025. And the administration was suggesting that we need to put excise duty extra on those imports so that we can encourage local manufacturing. So question is, did we equally shoot ourselves in the foot trying to resolve a problem that quote unquote is a problem, or was it the best solution? I would love to invite now, I believe that was between Clinton and JM, I can't remember anymore. You guys remember the queue?
Clinton was here first.
Yes. Hello, guys.
Hello, Clinton, proceed, 3
Can you
minutes.
hear me? Okay, so I want to rant today. I want us to see the bigger picture right now. What is the illness that we are going through? We are going through because of political power. We've been into this political power of who's next, who's going to take over. Like we are just in that kind of mentality, which is not useful, which has brought us to this dumb shit that we are in. So for me, I don't think that we need politics anymore. Politics, we should dump it once and for all and to be done with. We want for this country, we have a leader. Our leader is the Constitution, and our motherland is Kenya. We need it to be effective, and anyone who has been granted that seat of representative, should not think that he as a representative or she as a representative should be like the king on the hill. He should know that we are the power, and he or she is the one who is just going to speak out of our demands. And the next thing, I've heard that some people want to be politicians like Kasmuel. I think that guy should be booted. Even though he speaks well, I think he doesn't represent us. If he wants to be a politician, then let him be. But he doesn't represent our movement. Our movement is not politics. Our movement wants Kenya to move forward, to be something better than it is right now. We are not even people are suffering out here. People don't have food. People don't have shelter yet. Tunapatiwa wifi. Wifi ni ya kufanya nini kama una chakula? Utakula tu mneti. Huwezi kula mneti. That's fucked up, man. So to go realistic, let's be what Kenya is supposed to be. This is our land, and everybody should be taken care of. And Ruto should just go, guys. For me, I don't think that guy means well for all of us. Whatever he is doing, he's just like house levy. Those houses he's making, it's not for us. It's not for the ordinary Kenyans. It's for the rich. Let's be realistic. That guy has no heart for Kenyans. And last point, I can say that this space, personally, I don't think we are going to really need politicians coming in here telling us lies, and you do know those guys don't mean well for us. Let them stay away. Personally, we need a new Kenya, and new Kenya starts with us. Nobody else. Nobody from politics is going to tell us how to run our own country, because it's us who's on the ground and it's us who's suffering. Let's make this place at least like home for people to come back. I hate seeing people at leo sijui for 70 people teachers wamepelekwa majuu. You ni nini? You ni brain drain bana. Let them stick here. Let them love their country. Let them know that Kenya is there for them too. Hii story hapana. Mi yenyewe sitaki brain drain. Nataka yenyewe watu warudi home, tupendane vitu tulikuwa napendana before, na to continue like that in the future. Thank you. I think I've done.
Thank you, Clinton. I think we actually had. I was paying attention to the people that as I added.
Hello.
JM, you are one of the last people added, so just hold on for a second. There was Ochieng Thomas before you and Libon, and then we'll get to you and Dudley. I don't remember when Dudley came, but I definitely know Thomas and Ochieng and Libon came before you. Thomas,
Okay.
Ochieng, Libon, in that order.
Okay, thank you, guys. I would like to thank everybody for the resilience, especially
Thank you.
the
Good evening. Are you hearing me?
Ochieng
Good evening,
tulia, kuna mtu
Thomas.
anaongea. I think maybe you don't
Am I
hear.
audible?
Ochieng, hold on one
We
second.
have Thomas online, Ochieng. If you can hear me, kindly wait. After Thomas, it will be
Yes.
you. So let's have
Can you hear
Thomas.
me?
Okay, guys, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for the resilience, especially KOT. He has been very resilient. He doesn't give up easily. Sasa, I want to touch on the issue Paulo Kimani has been highlighting. We want Ruto to go, but we must be very careful because Ruto has very powerful friends and they have weapons. Americans have these powerful friends are the Americans. It is called the Anglo-Saxon Empire. These are people who are siphoning out our resources, our minerals. So we should be very careful with these people. Because if we are not careful, they will hijack this revolution and install another puppet.
Thomas, maybe if I ask you, what is your definition of careful? Because it's a bit a flat statement.
Careful is we must have an end game. And we must keep in mind that we must try, civic education is key. As much we want Ruto to go, and I want Ruto to go. But we need civic education to educate the people that Ruto is just a passing cloud. Ruto, Raila, the Gachagwas, these are puppets of the West. This bill was an IMF bill that was forced down our throat. Moi destroyed institutions because of pressure from these guys. We had institutions that used to work, used to create employment, like Rivertex. So we have to educate the masses and let them know that as much as we want Ruto to go, he has powerful friends that we should be careful of, and only education will help us through. Like the Iranians did, our situation is not different from the Iran of 1950 when Mossadegh came to power. He came to power, but he didn't know the Americans were his enemies. He was fighting the British. But the Americans came and toppled him through these demonstrations. There were pro-Mossadegh demonstrations were turned against him. And Americans were able to install a puppet for 25 years. It took them 25 years to recapture their country. So this is a marathon. Time is running quick. This is a marathon. Let us know that it will take long. In 2014,